With a sudden bam, the pink-haired Gwen slams papers down, vowing to keep someone by her side. A man in a suit tries to calm Gwen as she stands defiantly in a formal office setting. Adjusting his glasses, a stressed gray-haired man looks on as the confrontation in the office continues. A heavy door closes with a slam, leaving Gwen alone with a purple-haired man. The purple-haired man lets out a heavy sigh while Gwen refuses to back down. Gwen stands frozen, her expression filled with a mix of shock and growing uncertainty. The purple-haired man watches her with a calm, almost detached gaze, a small mole visible near his lip. Tension fills the air as Gwen reacts with visible distress to the man's cold demeanor. He suggests they reach a reasonable agreement, emphasizing that it is all for the sake of their son. A somber silence falls between them as Gwen absorbs the weight of his proposal. A massive, luxurious cruise ship glides across the sparkling blue ocean under a bright sun.
On board, a lavish spread of seafood and wine awaits, prompting a cheer for the delicious meal.
While passing by sunbathers on the deck, a voice admires the beautiful scenery and the attractive men. Carol, a green-haired woman with heart-shaped glasses, shouts a joyous woohoo while celebrating her vacation. Carol tries to engage Gwen, but the pink-haired woman is completely preoccupied with her smartphone. Gwen's screen displays a romantic story, showing a blonde man and a dark-haired woman in a moonlit embrace. With a soft sniff, Gwen weeps happy tears because her favorite fictional couple is finally together. Carol is baffled that Gwen is choosing digital romance over the real-life excitement of the cruise. Removing her glasses, Carol reminds Gwen that her father sent them here to find her a partner. In a sudden flashback, Gwen's father bellows her name at the top of his lungs. He shoves cruise tickets into her hands, insisting she use them to meet someone and stop being lonely. Touched by his concern, Gwen agrees to go on the trip, only because he is the one asking. Back in the present, Gwen reflects sadly on her long history of disappointing dates and failed expectations. Carol remains optimistic, clasping her hands together as she encourages Gwen to let herself blossom. Losing her patience, Carol scolds Gwen for staring at her phone while attractive men walk past. Carol points out potential soulmates, unaware that a familiar purple-haired man is walking right behind them. The purple-haired man from the office sighs as he walks along the deck, seemingly lost in thought. Undeterred by Gwen's reluctance, Carol promises to do everything she can to help her friend find love. Carol realizes it is the final day of the trip and insists they cannot leave empty-handed. When Gwen mentions buying souvenirs, Carol cries in frustration at her friend's lack of romantic common sense. Carol gives Gwen a supportive squeeze, telling her that sometimes everyone needs a little push to succeed. With renewed energy, Carol cheers and declares that they are going to party the night away. As night falls over the ship, Carol orders Gwen to change into her most stunning outfit. Gwen emerges in a stylish black dress, feeling self-conscious despite Carol's enthusiastic praise and hugs. A sudden bam echoes as they arrive at the entrance of the vibrant and loud cruise club. Amidst cheers of woo, Carol pulls a nervous Gwen into the heart of the crowded dance floor. Two men approach the pair, asking if they can join them for the night's festivities. Carol happily agrees to the invitation, while Gwen looks on with a hesitant and worried expression. Tristan and Peter introduce themselves, and the group jokes about their names sounding like characters from a movie. Carol and Peter bond instantly over their shared heritage, leaving Gwen feeling awkward and out of place. Tristan asks Gwen if she is actually old enough to drink, causing her to react with defensive annoyance. Tristan tries to flirt by complimenting Gwen's youthful face, but his pickup line falls completely flat. Peter and a red-haired man try to chat with Gwen, but she struggles to find anything to say. Noticing Gwen's visible fatigue, Carol asks if she is okay, and Gwen admits she is failing at socializing. Carol apologizes for being too pushy and suggests they just focus on having fun together as friends. Carol heads off to get more drinks, promising they will always have each other, even as old grannies. Standing alone, Gwen watches other couples embracing, wondering if she will ever truly fit into this world. Gwen looks down with a heavy heart, her thoughts consumed by the desire to find the right person. She imagines a happy future where she has a loving husband and a beautiful family of her own. Gwen sips her drink in the middle of the noisy party, her eyes filling with quiet, lonely tears. Gwen notices the purple-haired man being surrounded by admirers before he winks, causing her to drink nervously. The purple-haired man looks back over his shoulder, locking eyes with a stunned pink-haired Gwen. He offers a charming wink and a finger heart, playfully acknowledging her gaze from across the room. Gwen's eyes widen in confusion as she struggles to process his unexpected and very bold flirtation. Approaching her, the purple-haired man asks for help while Gwen reacts with a startled, wide-eyed stammer. To everyone's shock, the man pulls Gwen away, leaving the other women gawking in total disbelief. They emerge onto a quiet, structural deck area under a vast and starry night sky. He winks again, admitting he was simply looking for a convenient way to escape the crowd. Gwen stares back, her expression a mix of lingering shock and quiet, thoughtful observation. Gwen protests his impulsive behavior toward a stranger, but he points out that she was staring first. He bluntly asks why she was staring anyway, catching her off guard and shifting the entire conversation. Gwen is left completely speechless and bewildered by his straightforward and somewhat cheeky questioning. As they walk, Gwen admits that she is not used to being in such loud social environments. Leaning in close, the purple-haired man suggests that he can help her finally have a good time. He watches her with a calm, handsome gaze, waiting for her reaction to his tempting proposal. They share a rare moment of agreement, both finding the effort to connect with strangers exhausting. Gwen realizes they are still technically strangers, and he humorously concedes that her point is true. The purple-haired man offers a soft smile, reassuring her that he certainly does not dislike her company. Gwen remains skeptical, questioning why he chose her and if he is truly worth her trust. He admits he wanted to save face, but Gwen notices a hint of hidden sadness in his expression. A loud grumble from Gwen's stomach prompts him to suggest dinner before finding her a special someone. With a bright laugh, he tells her to relax, admitting he was just playfully messing with her. They walk together on the empty, striped deck, a wide gap still separating their nervous figures. Gwen reflects on Carol's advice, wondering if this unexpected encounter is her chance to finally blossom. Gwen suddenly shouts a question about the food's quality, catching the purple-haired man by surprise. He stops and looks at her with a blank, comical expression, simply responding with a confused, "Huh?" Gwen decides to go against her usual instincts and chooses to accept his peculiar dinner invitation. Their footsteps echo on the deck as they head toward the restaurant area together. Gwen nervously pulls out her phone, wondering how she should explain this situation to Carol. She sends a text to her bestie and receives an enthusiastic, supportive reply filled with encouragement. Looking at him, Gwen concludes that while he is undeniably handsome, he is also very strange. He teases her about the kissing emoji on her screen, causing Gwen to react with frantic embarrassment. With a playful wave, the purple-haired man tells her to hurry up as they reach their destination. The massive cruise ship stands majestic and brightly lit against the deep blue of the night. Sitting at a table under a glass dome, he notes the view of the stars while dining. Gwen enjoys the meal immensely, surprising him with her sudden enthusiasm and request for more food. The purple-haired man invites her to watch the fireworks with him, asking if she wants to join. Gwen gives a happy double thumbs up and declares she will gladly join him for the show. He tells her she is far too trusting and points out a bit of food on her cheek. He reminds her to inform her friend of their new location as a sensible safety precaution. Gwen wipes her face with a napkin, acknowledging that he is right to be so cautious. They stand together on the deck, the purple-haired man smiling as Gwen looks up in shock. Boom! A spectacular display of colorful fireworks begins to explode in the night sky above them. Gwen watches the shimmering lights with a look of pure, childlike wonder and genuine joy. The purple-haired man turns his gaze away from the sky to watch her with a soft expression. Boom! Vibrant bursts of light continue to fill the sky as they share this quiet, beautiful moment. Gwen looks at his profile, thinking about how her heart reacts every time he smiles at her. Pop! A group of waiters arrives, mistakenly congratulating the pair on an engagement to Miss Elaine. They present a pair of dressed-up lion dolls as a gift, celebrating the non-existent engagement. The staff bows and makes a quick exit, leaving the two in a very awkward silence. The purple-haired man thanks Gwen for her company, his hand resting thoughtfully on the back of his neck. He gazes at the lion doll, revealing his original plan to propose to his girlfriend on this very day. Gwen looks down sympathetically, envying the woman who had someone so thoughtful and prepared waiting for her. Offering a gentle smile, the purple-haired man apologizes for his lack of honesty and wishes her well. As he turns to leave, Gwen suddenly shouts for him to wait, her face flushed with sudden emotion. Arthur looks back in surprise as Gwen reflects on his hidden pain and the unknown reasons for his heartbreak. Stealing her resolve, Gwen looks him in the eye and tells him that she believes he is a good person. The purple-haired man is momentarily stunned by her sincerity, a small, genuine smile finally reaching his eyes. Gwen quickly adds that she doesn't dislike him either, her pink eyes shimmering with a mix of embarrassment and kindness. He lets out a hearty laugh, teasing her for stealing his line, while Gwen reacts with flustered, wide-eyed protests. Gwen stands there looking completely bashful, her usual defensive walls momentarily lowered by their shared laughter. When he continues to tease her, she playfully threatens to take back her kind words, prompting him to laugh more. He watches her with a soft, captivated gaze, the quiet atmosphere of the deck amplifying their growing connection. A bright, joyful smile breaks across Gwen's face as she laughs along, finally letting herself enjoy the evening. He asks for her name, and Gwen introduces herself, reacting with shock as he delivers a charming kiss. Time shifts as the memory of wine and intimate touch resurfaces, Gwen reflecting on the mistake of being too agreeable. Their hands intertwine as the night progresses into a passionate embrace, marking the start of a life-changing encounter. The purple-haired man sits shirtless and imposing as Gwen recalls how their sweet night eventually turned into a bitter dispute. A series of beep sounds signal missed calls from family as a troubled Arthur drinks alone in the shadows. In a bleak flashback, a doctor informs Mr. Morante that his medical condition has significantly worsened after recent lab results. The devastating diagnosis confirms he cannot conceive, leading his past partner to end their relationship in a cold apology. Arthur sits slumped in despair, clutching a glass of whiskey while the vast city lights glitter mockingly behind him. Looking at the shattered remains of a glass, he wallows in the dark belief that he is utterly worthless. The scene flashes back to that fateful night, their hands locked together as the intimacy of the past returns. Gwen's voice echoes from the memory, reminding him that he is a good person who should never feel worthless. Arthur lies awake in bed, his eyes fixed on the ceiling as he dwells on her words and his loneliness. As morning light fills the room, Arthur sits up and rubs his neck, the weight of the past still lingering. The sun shines over the dense city skyline, marking the beginning of a new day and a shift in focus. His luxurious apartment stands empty and silent, the modern decor feeling cold without any life to fill the space. Standing before the mirror, Arthur shaves with careful precision, preparing himself for the difficult tasks ahead of him. Arthur checks his phone while talking to an elderly woman named Nana, thanking her as she carries fresh linens. He sighs deeply while reflecting on Gwen's current abrasive personality, noting how much she has changed since that night. Looking at his tablet, Arthur expresses his deep longing to finally meet the smiling baby boy pictured on the screen. Reclining on the sofa, Arthur asks Nana for advice while she continues her cleaning duties around the large living room. He gazes out the window with a pensive expression, wondering what a young child would actually enjoy having. Gwen sits on a playmat surrounded by toys, looking exhausted as she talks on the phone while Leon crawls. Her expression hardens with determination as she explains that Arthur's legal representation is the only reason she is complying. Arthur calmly asks his lawyer to leave the room, wanting a private moment to speak with Miss Zalameda directly. He tells a visibly tense Gwen to sit down and listen, promising that doing so will prevent further trouble. Arthur declares his simple desire to be a father to Leon, leaving Gwen standing in stunned, wide-eyed silence. Squalling, Gwen questions his knowledge of parenting, accusing him of living a privileged life supported only by hired help. Arthur leans back, maintaining his composure as he insists he is only trying to reach a fair and reasonable agreement. He explains he has no intention of dragging this through court, subtly reminding her of the risks to her situation. Arthur proposes a 3-month trial period to prove his fatherhood skills in exchange for his legal right to visitation. Gwen fiercely rejects his money, but Arthur counters by offering her full custody as long as he has visitation rights. He looks at her with a heavy, pleading expression, admitting that he simply and truly needs his son in his life. Later, Gwen vents her frustrations to Carol over the phone, labeling Arthur as a foul and manipulative devil. A sharp ding-dong interrupts her call as she tells Carol she won't be worn down by his persistent demands. Gwen takes a deep, shaky breath, attempting to steady her racing heart before she has to face him again. Her eyes burn with a fierce, defiant fire as she vows to show him that she will not be defeated. Arthur arrives at the door in a panda head, giraffe plushie in hand, as a loud buzz sounds. Gwen is completely bewildered by Arthur's costume while he explains he only wanted to surprise little Leon. With a quick grunt sounding, Gwen tells the panda-masked man to take it off and enter the house normally. Still wearing the massive head, Arthur eagerly asks for Leon's whereabouts as Gwen leads him further inside. Arthur recalls the painful infertility diagnosis that once stole his hope as he stares at his son's toys. Arthur stands ready behind the baby gate while a flustered Gwen tells him not to go in there. Baby Leon looks up from his toys, letting out a joyful shout as he spots the giant visitor. His heart gives a sudden thud as a surprised shout sounds, Arthur fumbling with his bulky panda mask. Arthur finally removes the costume head, revealing his handsome, sweating face as he accepts Gwen's invitation inside. Arthur offers a gentle, soft smile, causing a quiet Gwen to stare at him with a curious expression. Gwen reflects on how different Arthur seems compared to the cold, confrontational man she met only days ago. Arthur kneels down on the floor, reaching out a tentative hand to greet his wide-eyed, curious infant son. A sweet, tiny giggle sounds as Leon grabs his father's finger, instantly blooming a warm, floral connection. Arthur gazes at his son with intense, soft-eyed affection, looking completely mesmerized by the small child before him. A subtle, satisfied smile plays on Arthur's lips as he experiences the overwhelming joy of this first meeting. Watching the tender interaction, Gwen feels a sudden heartbeat thud as she sees Arthur's genuine, soft expression. Arthur tentatively asks if he can finally hold Leon, catching a surprised Gwen completely off guard with his request. Gwen remains defensive, holding her son tightly, while Arthur offers a pleading look to earn her fragile trust. Setting her boundaries, Gwen agrees to let him hold the baby, but only within her immediate presence. Arthur quickly agrees to her strict terms, while a stubborn huff sounds from a still reluctant, blushing Gwen. Gwen is surprised by his lack of argument, and Arthur asks again for the chance to hold him. A confused baby cry sounds as Gwen carefully hands Leon over, warning Arthur to be extra gentle. Arthur holds Leon with profound care, leading Gwen to think she won't deny her son a father's love. Gwen wonders where the arrogant jerk from the other day went, as Arthur seems like a different person. Arthur apologizes for being scary before, explaining he was simply desperate to see his child at any cost. Arthur mentions their fateful night on the cruise, causing Gwen to stare at him in stunned, wide-eyed silence. They share a quiet moment of eye contact as Arthur asks Gwen how she has been doing lately. Suddenly, a loud, wailing cry sounds from Leon, shocking both parents as the baby begins to scream. A startled gasp sounds as Gwen quickly takes her crying son back while a panicked Arthur looks on. Arthur mentions providing all the household necessities, and a grateful but proud Gwen offers a quiet thank you. Arthur bids his son a tender farewell as he prepares to leave, while Gwen watches him with skepticism. Arthur promises to honor their agreement if things go well, his intense gaze lingering on a worried Gwen. Arthur's hand briefly grazes Gwen's hair in a quiet, intimate gesture as he looks down at his sleeping son. Arthur stands over Gwen and Leon, looking down with a gentle, protective expression before finally turning to leave. Arthur looks back one last time, his handsome face filled with a sense of peace and newfound purpose. Gwen sits alone with Leon at night, wondering if Arthur's nice guy persona is genuine or an act. Showering Leon with kisses, Gwen praises him for his good work while the baby babbles happily. Gwen pulls her son into a tight hug, her expression clouded with the heavy weight of her past. Gwen remembers her happy childhood with her aging father and the mother she lost far too early. In the memory, her father boisterously demands she find a boyfriend already, his voice filling the warm kitchen. A younger Gwen smiles, telling her dad that love and a family will surely happen naturally for her. A loud sob sounds as Gwen remembers her father's funeral and the cold rejection from her remaining relatives. Gwen wakes up gasping from the nightmare, her breath hitching in sudden shock as she looks around the room. She watches Leon sleep peacefully in his panda outfit, clutching the lion doll from that fateful cruise night. Gwen looks somber as she reflects on her isolation, her only source of strength being the son she loves. Back at home, a joyous Arthur hugs Nana, declaring that something wonderful has happened at work today. Nana tries to pry information from Gareth, the bodyguard, who keeps Arthur's secrets with a stern, silent expression. A cheerful hum sounds as Arthur walks away, leaving Nana to marvel at how happy he finally seems. Arthur unbuttons his shirt in his bedroom, his thoughts entirely consumed by how adorable his new son is. Resting on his bed, Arthur reflects on how his son has restored the hope he thought was lost forever. Arthur reflects on his search for Gwen, questioning his clumsy greeting while realizing he has finally found her. Arthur lies restless in bed, dwelling on her sudden departure before deciding to let the painful past go. The city hums with life under a clear blue sky, marking the start of another bustling morning. Nana gently enters the modern bedroom, calling out to wake a still slumbering Arthur from his deep sleep. Arthur sits up with a sudden, quick whip sounding, startling Nana as he emerges from the dark covers. A heavy, resonant denoom echoes as a troubled Arthur clutches his head, his face damp with cold sweat. At Mega Development Corp, Percy scolds Arthur for lounging in his office while looking so completely disheveled. Slumped on the sofa, Arthur dismisses Percy's concerns, even as his friend demands to know what is happening. A vibrant bouquet of purple roses sits on the desk, catching Arthur's attention amidst the office clutter. Percy excitedly reveals it is a special day, though he quickly shuts down Arthur's guess about it being a birthday. Percy announces he is meeting his ex-wife, sparking a playful but heated bicker between the two competitive friends. Percy expresses his sincere determination to rebuild his ex-wife's trust for the sake of their daughter's future happiness. Arthur falls silent, his expression softening as he contemplates the heavy responsibility of being a father to his son. He stares off with a distant, pensive gaze, seemingly lost in his own complicated feelings regarding his family. As the sun sets, the warm light glows over Leon's shelf of colorful toys and baby necessities. Little Leon looks up with wide, sparkly eyes, his tiny mouth open in a look of pure, innocent wonder. Gwen smiles tenderly at her son, promising him new clothes once she manages to secure a new job. A soft, sweet "ah" sounds as Arthur's large hand gently strokes Leon's head while the baby sleeps peacefully. Arthur stands at the doorway with a gentle, hopeful smile, holding a blue gift bag for his young son.
A surprised Gwen welcomes Arthur back into her home, holding Leon close while looking slightly uncertain of his presence.
Arthur offers food he brought along, but Gwen politely declines, noting she has already prepared a meal for them. Arthur greets Leon before asking to join them for dinner, earning a sharp reminder from Gwen to wash first. Gwen agrees with a hesitant, guarded look, her gaze lingering on Arthur as she processes his persistent kindness. Working in the kitchen, Gwen feels a flicker of annoyance, her eyes narrowing as she reflects on Arthur's behavior. Arthur watches Leon with a warm, doting expression, the room filled with a soft, floral atmosphere of domestic peace. They gather around the small table, Gwen offering Arthur a taste of her cooking in a rare moment of hospitality. The table is spread with a variety of home-cooked dishes, the simple meal feeling surprisingly warm and inviting. Arthur watches intently as Gwen feeds Leon, a quiet sense of longing and appreciation evident in his steady gaze. Leon opens his mouth wide for a spoonful of food, looking adorable as he enjoys his dinner. Noticing his intense stare, a flustered Gwen asks Arthur if something is wrong with the food or the situation. Arthur offers a charming, soft smile, encouraging her to continue as if he is enjoying the simple view. Gwen turns away, annoyed by how much his mischievous smile and constant compliments are starting to affect her. Arthur praises Gwen's cooking by comparing it to Nana's, leaving a confused Gwen to wonder who Nana actually is. Arthur explains that Nana raised him, confirming Gwen's belief that he has always lived a life of immense privilege. Gwen looks at him with a somber expression, trying to reconcile the man before her with her previous assumptions. As Arthur plays with Leon's cheek, Gwen reflects on the genuine warmth he shows when speaking about his childhood caretaker. Arthur catches her staring and apologizes for his rambling, asking if his stories have somehow offended her. Gwen questions which version of him is the real one, her direct inquiry catching a surprised Arthur off guard. Her expression is clouded with doubt and vulnerability as she waits for an answer to her difficult question. They share a tense, lingering moment of eye contact, the air between them thick with unspoken words and uncertainty. Arthur rests his chin on his hand, looking at Gwen with a soft, mesmerized expression that makes her blush. Gwen quickly tells him to forget her question, her face flushed as a sudden, tiny shout sounds from Leon. A low, trembling "ooh" sounds as Leon's face scrunches up, the baby clearly on the verge of crying. A loud, piercing "you-ah" erupts as a panicked Arthur rushes to check on his suddenly screaming son. Arthur cradles the wailing baby against his chest, his face filled with worry as he tries to soothe him. A sudden, wet plop sounds, and Arthur freezes in realization as Gwen watches the messy situation unfold. Another loud UWAA rings through the apartment at sunset as Gwen tells a frantic Arthur not to panic. Arthur prepares for the task with a dramatic ta-da sounding, wearing a surgical mask and gloves like a doctor. Leon lies on his back, looking up with a confused "I?" as his father prepares for the diaper change. Gwen looks on with exasperated disbelief as Arthur insists he knows exactly what he is doing, despite his overkill. Gwen provides instruction while the purple-haired man diligently secures the baby's new diaper. Arthur removes his mask, his gaze lingering on a watchful Gwen after the messy ordeal. Leon giggles happily in his fresh diaper, causing Gwen's heart to melt as Arthur smiles. A soft, rhythmic zzz sounds as little Leon drifts into a peaceful, pacifier-soothed slumber. Arthur prepares to depart, promising that his Nana will arrive soon to provide extra support. Gwen watches Arthur leave, surprised that her initial fears of a miserable stay haven't materialized. Arthur suddenly pauses and turns back, catching a startled Gwen off guard with his sudden movement. Arthur presents a stunning bouquet of pastel roses, his expression radiating an uncharacteristically soft warmth. Gwen stares in silent wonder as Arthur offers her the beautiful, fragrant gift of peace. Arthur's intense gaze softens as he reminds her that he is still the man from that fateful night. Gwen's expression remains clouded with doubt, secretly wishing he were the villain she originally imagined. Arthur stands tall, clutching the flowers while suggesting they try to build a fresh friendship first. The scene shifts to a shocked Nana Lydia as she processes the startling news about Arthur's secret child. Relaxing with tea, Arthur explains that only she and his bodyguard know the truth for Gwen's sake. Nana questions if Arthur's mother knows, but he confirms that he is keeping the secret for now. Overlooking the glittering city, Nana Lydia bluntly asks if Arthur is truly certain the baby belongs to him. Arthur looks back with quiet confidence, confirming that the medical test results have already provided his answer. Arthur reflects on his isolated household, realizing that he is the only one who truly knows Gwen. Nana Lydia probes for information about Leon's mother, her concerned gaze searching Arthur's weary, pensive face. Arthur blushes as Nana Lydia teases him, insisting his interest in Gwen goes far beyond a single night. Staring out the window, Arthur admits to himself that his fascination with Gwen has only grown deeper. Arthur recalls the frustration of his long search, a memory of him pulling his hair in desperation. The memory shows the moment Arthur finally spotted Gwen in a small town during a routine visit. Nana Lydia agrees to help investigate the lady's heart, warning Arthur that he must also do his part. A quick, resonant whir sounds as Gwen vigorously cleans the apartment, finishing with an exhausted whew. A bright ding-dong rings out, and a surprised Gwen opens the door to find a visitor. Nana Lydia stands at the threshold, her kind face framed by a radiant, flowery aura of warmth. Gwen confirms her identity, looking slightly bewildered by the sudden arrival of the elegant, older woman. Nana Lydia introduces herself as Arthur's lifelong caretaker, praising Gwen for the immaculate state of the home. A loud, piercing "You ah!" erupts from the crib, sending both women rushing toward the crying baby. Nana Lydia cradles the wailing infant, marveling at how much little Leon resembles a young Arthur. Leon suddenly stops crying as Nana plays with him, leaving a stunned Gwen to watch in amazement. Nana Lydia offers to share her childcare secrets, and a desperate Gwen eagerly accepts the help. Gwen takes diligent notes as Nana Lydia demonstrates expert techniques, making Leon coo with pure delight. A soft nom sounds as Leon happily feeds himself, following Nana Lydia's advice on healthy eating habits. Gwen reflects on her relief, realizing that Arthur's Nana is a genuinely kind and helpful presence. A soft whoa sounds as Gwen watches Nana Lydia work, noting the deep bond she shares with Arthur. Gwen finds herself wondering what Arthur is doing, her mind filled with curious questions about him. The sun shines over the massive Mega Development Corp building, signaling the start of a busy day. Arthur slumps in his office chair, his thoughts of Gwen making it impossible for him to focus. Arthur recalls his offer of friendship, hoping they can move past their complicated history together. Gwen's voice echoes in his mind, coldly rejecting his attempts to get to know her better. Arthur looks pensive as he remembers Gwen's firm demand to focus entirely on their son instead. Arthur instructs his subordinate to dig into Gwen's family history, hoping for a way to reach her. A deep sigh escapes Arthur as he dwells on how difficult it is to read Gwen's mind. Arthur vividly recalls Gwen's beautiful smile from the cruise, yearning to see that genuine joy again. Arthur regrets not finding her sooner while Gwen spends her quiet evenings sewing baby clothes. Gwen realizes that having Nana Lydia's help has allowed her finally to relax and catch up. Nana Lydia scolds Arthur's poor planning, shocked that he has kept the mother and child cooped up. Gwen looks somber as she decides to honor Arthur's request for the next few months of their agreement. Nana Lydia looks at Arthur with deep concern, asking what he has done to the young mother. Little Leon crawls on the playmat, while Gwen calls Nana Lydia by her formal name, only to be corrected. Gwen clasps her hands together, expressing her sincere gratitude to Nana Lydia for all the help provided today. Nana Lydia smiles warmly, noting that seeing Arthur return home happy is reason enough for her to be thankful. Gwen listens intently as the older woman insists that beneath his exterior, Arthur is a truly kind-hearted man. Arthur suddenly peeks into the room, announcing his return with a soft, charming smile on his face. A shocked Arthur is greeted by a calm Nana Lydia and a silent Gwen in a humorous moment. Suspecting they were talking about him, Arthur questions Nana Lydia while she dismisses his concerns with a laugh. Arthur gazes at Gwen with a heavy, pensive expression, his eyes reflecting a deep and unspoken internal conflict. A sudden, sharp pfft sounds as Gwen stifles a laugh, recalling a ridiculous memory of a panda-headed man. Arthur lets out a playful hee-hee while Gwen glares at him, clearly annoyed by his constant, mischievous smirking. A low, weary "ugh" escapes Gwen as Arthur suggests taking her and Leon on a quiet, scenic picnic. Gwen flatly rejects the offer, claiming she is far too exhausted for any outings, leaving Arthur looking stunned. Arthur persists with a loud, energetic shout, refusing to give up even as Gwen begs him to stop. Arthur suggests staying the night since Nana Lydia is there, gesturing toward Gwen with a hopeful, persistent grin. Arthur takes Gwen's hand in his sudden touch making her pause as they share an intense, quiet moment. Arthur asks if he can care for both Gwen and their son, his sincere words catching her off guard. Arthur's gaze remains steady and sincere, his purple eyes filled with a desperate longing to be truly understood. Gwen recalls Nana Lydia's praise, reflecting on how she once believed Arthur was a genuinely kind-hearted person. Arthur looks down with a somber expression, his heart heavy as he waits for Gwen's reaction to his touch. Gwen's mind is filled with doubt as she wonders if she can truly trust the man before her again. A sudden, shocked silence fills the room as Nana Lydia holds the baby while the parents remain frozen. Gwen turns and walks away, leaving a bewildered Arthur sitting alone as he tries to process her coldness. Gwen points a finger and agrees he can stay the night, but only on one mysterious, non-negotiable condition. Arthur quickly agrees to the deal, his face lighting up with a satisfied smirk as the agreement is sealed. Little Leon sleeps peacefully with his pacifier, oblivious to the complex negotiations happening between his parents. Gwen looks at the pair with suspicion, wondering what sort of secret schemes Arthur and Nana are plotting. Arthur pulls up his shirt to reveal his chiseled abs, looking confident and ready for the night ahead. Nana Lydia remarks on Gwen's guarded nature, while Arthur admits she is likely cautious because of his involvement. Nana Lydia questions why Arthur is keeping the family in a separate property instead of his main home. Arthur explains he must hide them from his family until he can properly make up for his past mistakes. Nana Lydia watches him somberly, asking if his actions are driven solely by a deep sense of overwhelming guilt. Arthur looks away, his face clouded with inner turmoil as he reflects on his true motivations for helping Gwen. Arthur clutches his head in frustration, unable to believe his own thoughts as Nana Lydia watches with concern. Nana Lydia teases Arthur about Gwen's wifely qualities, causing the purple-haired man to react with flustered embarrassment. Arthur looks dejected as Nana Lydia prepares to leave, instructing him to be a good boy while she's gone. Nana Lydia watches Gwen sewing from the doorway, hoping that Arthur will eventually come to his senses. Gwen continues her meticulous sewing late into the night, her face a mask of quiet, focused determination. Gwen looks startled as Nana Lydia explains she must depart to care for her own grandchildren tonight. Nana Lydia places a comforting hand on Gwen's shoulder, urging her to give Arthur a chance to apologize. Gwen offers a soft, hesitant agreement, her eyes downcast as she processes the older woman's heartfelt plea. Arthur lies awake on the bed, staring up at the ceiling with a troubled and deeply pensive expression. A loud, piercing "wah" rings out, jolting a wide-eyed Arthur from his thoughts as the baby begins crying. Another loud "wah" rings through the room as little Leon wails, his tiny face scrunched up in distress. Arthur rushes in to check on them, but Gwen explains that Leon is already fed, changed, and simply restless. As Gwen struggles to soothe the crying infant, Arthur reflects on her earlier claim of being too tired. Arthur runs back into the room holding a large giraffe plush, introducing himself to Leon as Sir Giraffe. Arthur dances and sings about his long neck, but Gwen and Leon watch his performance with blank stares. Little Leon looks terrified as he reaches out, his eyes filling with tears at the sight of the toy. A relieved woo escapes Arthur as Leon finally settles down, while Gwen watches him with a softened gaze. Arthur gazes warmly at Gwen while she remains focused on cradling their son, little Leon, in her arms. Arthur approaches the pair with a large giraffe plush, his gentle expression reflecting a desire to bridge their distance. Gwen flatly rejects Arthur's presence, prompting him to playfully question if she still fears his intentions while she sleeps. Arthur observes Gwen's fatigue, reflecting on the heavy daily toll that caring for their son has taken on her. Arthur's purple eyes soften as he admits his only goal for the evening is to help Gwen finally relax. Arthur persistently offers the toy to Leon, while a flustered Gwen reacts with a mixture of shock and annoyance. Gwen agrees he can stay if he remains visible, and a victorious Arthur salutes his commander with a smirk. A sudden, resonant glug sounds as Gwen chugs water, sighing while calling herself pathetic for giving in once again. Arthur settles onto the playmat to entertain Leon, his focus entirely on the happy baby and the giraffe. Arthur whispers to Leon about letting Gwen rest, but the baby responds with a curious and wide-eyed coo. Arthur frantically tells Leon to act natural as a suspicious Gwen enters the room to check on their activities. Gwen insists she doesn't need his help, but Arthur stands and reaches out toward her with newfound quiet confidence. Arthur moves in close with a smirk, his sudden proximity and intense gaze leaving a flustered Gwen completely frozen. Arthur lifts Gwen into the air with a boisterous "ha-ha," catching her completely off guard with the sudden gesture. A soft giggle sounds from little Leon as he watches the playful and chaotic interaction between his two parents. Arthur teases Gwen about her funny expression while she angrily demands that he put her down immediately, or else. Arthur returns Gwen to the couch with a laugh, ignoring her frustrated warnings as she fumes from the embarrassment. Arthur tells Gwen to rest well, their shared gaze lingering with a deep and shifting sense of emotional weight. Arthur brushes a strand of pink hair aside, softly admitting his relief that Gwen's fiery personality remains unchanged. A shadowy memory of their past intimacy surfaces as Gwen firmly tells Arthur no, struggling to maintain her guard. Gwen pleads with Arthur to avoid repeating past mistakes, her expression filled with a deep and painful inner conflict. A sudden, energetic "bah" from Leon breaks the heavy tension, startling both parents back to the present moment. Arthur lifts a laughing Leon high into the air, the baby's pure joy bringing a rare smile to his face. Gwen watches the father and son bond, her face a mask of complex, conflicting emotions and lingering, quiet doubt. Arthur leans in close once more, his steady gaze and soft words making it impossible for Gwen to resolve. A soft, rhythmic ba-dum sounds as Gwen hides her face, her heart racing from Arthur's intense and focused attention. A sudden, sharp click sounds as Arthur captures a perfect, candid photo of little Leon playing on the mat. Arthur shows the phone to Leon, the baby cooing with excitement as he sees his own face on screen. Arthur encourages Leon to try another pose, his focus entirely on creating happy memories with his young son. Leon tumbles over with an energetic "aye," his clumsy and playful antics filling the quiet room with life. Arthur laughs before quickly covering his mouth, fearing his boisterous noise might wake the sleeping Gwen nearby. Arthur turns and realizes Gwen has finally fallen asleep, his expression softening with a wave of quiet relief. Arthur sits quietly on the floor beside the couch, watching over Gwen with a somber and protective gaze. A soft ba-dum sounds as Arthur gazes at the sleeping woman, his heart reflecting an growing, unspoken devotion. Gwen sleeps peacefully through the night, her features finally relaxed as she escapes the weight of her constant stress. Arthur gently strokes Gwen's hair, whispering sweet dreams as he watches over her in the quiet of the night. Gwen's eyes slowly flutter open as the morning light begins to fill the room, signaling the end of her rest. Gwen sits up on the sofa, surprised to realize she actually managed to have a decent sleep for once. Looking toward the empty playmat, Gwen wonders where Arthur and little Leon have gone so early in the morning. A wave of sudden panic hits Gwen as she desperately hopes that Arthur hasn't taken their son away. Arthur appears holding Leon, his disheveled hair and heavy eyes suggesting he stayed awake the entire night. Arthur asks if she slept well, while a shocked Gwen observes his obviously exhausted and weary state. Arthur yawns and explains that Leon was up every hour, requiring his constant and tireless attention until dawn. Arthur collapses onto the sofa in total exhaustion, leaving a stunned Gwen to hold their happy, giggling son. Gwen watches the sleeping man, moved by the realization that he truly sacrificed his rest to care for them. A soft giggle sounds from Leon in Gwen's arms, oblivious to the fact that his father is now drained. Gwen stops Leon from waking Arthur, insisting that the tired man deserves to finally have a moment of quiet. Arthur peeks one eye open and weakly asks if he did well, seeking Gwen's approval before falling asleep. Gwen looks at Leon with a gentle, genuine smile, her walls finally beginning to crumble around the purple-haired man. Arthur offers a sleepy smirk and wishes her a good night before falling back into a very deep sleep. Gwen holds baby Leon while Arthur lies exhausted on the floor after his long, sleepless night. Little Leon lets out a happy, energetic goo as he crawls over his very tired father. Arthur pleads for more sleep, but Leon's playful antics eventually jolt him awake in sudden surprise. Gwen enters with a blanket, finding Arthur awake and Leon playing happily on the padded floor. Nana Lydia offers Gwen a warm drink while observing the morning sun through the bright kitchen window. Arthur asks Nana why she didn't wake him, his voice thick with a deep, lingering exhaustion. The scene transitions to a purple sunset over the city while a pot simmers on the stove. Leon sits in his high chair, munching on small snacks while his parents prepare for the day. Arthur lets out a weary "Ugh," his face buried in his hands as Gwen watches with concern. Arthur rubs his tired eyes, reflecting on his desire to spend his precious day off with Leon. Gwen observes Arthur's weariness, acknowledging the heavy toll that staying up until morning has taken. Nana Lydia suggests the couple go outside for a change while she looks after the house. Nana Lydia gives Arthur a supportive wink, leaving the purple-haired man looking surprised and hopeful. Arthur eagerly encourages the idea of an outing, his mood lifting at the prospect of family time. Gwen worries that accepting his generosity might make her look like she's taking advantage of him. Arthur senses Gwen's hesitation, claiming he knows exactly what she is currently thinking and feeling. Arthur reassures Gwen he won't use his kindness against her, wanting only a peaceful day together. The trio prepares to head out, leaving a smiling Nana Lydia behind to manage the household tasks. Gwen receives a message from Carol regarding a lawyer, adding a layer of conflict to her day. Gwen stares at her phone, struggling to reconcile her plans with Arthur's recent sincere, helpful efforts. Gwen admits to herself that seeing Arthur's dedication is beginning to soften her guarded, weary heart. Nana Lydia reveals Leon dressed in a cute hat, startling Gwen with the baby's stylish look. Gwen reacts with blushing adoration, her heart melting at the sight of her baby boy looking so precious. Nana Lydia asks if something is wrong as Gwen stands frozen by the baby's overwhelming cuteness. Arthur changes into a sharp black t-shirt and chain, looking refreshed and ready for their outing. Arthur brushes his hair back, his focused gaze reflecting his determination to make the day special. Gwen appears in a ruffled blouse, her elegant look causing Arthur's heart to beat with bedum intensity. The two parents stand before each other, the air filled with a new, quiet sense of admiration. Their gazes linger as they prepare to leave, both subtly moved by the other's polished, stylish appearance. Nana Lydia wishes Arthur luck as she finishes settling little Leon into his dark blue stroller. The sunset glow illuminates the city buildings as the family begins their walk through the neighborhood. Arthur suggests a trip to the zoo, hoping Leon will enjoy seeing all the different animals. Gwen points out they lack a car seat, causing a brief moment of hesitation as they cross. Gwen quickly clarifies her intent while Arthur listens calmly, his purple eyes fixed on the path ahead. Arthur smiles and proposes a new plan, leading them toward a different destination for the evening. The scene transitions to the glittering displays of a large mart, filled with fresh food and goods. They arrive at NG Mart, where Arthur's laughter contrasts with Gwen's shocked and flustered reaction. Arthur reiterates his promise not to use the shopping trip against Gwen as she looks away. Arthur places a gentle hand on Gwen's head, telling her she doesn't have to do everything alone. Gwen looks up in stunned silence, completely caught off guard by his sudden, tender physical contact. Arthur stands confidently in the store, his focus shared between the stroller and the wide aisles. Arthur offers a charming smirk and tells Gwen he simply wants to spoil her for once. Gwen blushes deeply, her expression a mix of embarrassment and a slow growing warmth toward him. Gwen challenges his motives, but Arthur remains unbothered, his focus staying on their shared afternoon. Arthur's warm smile makes Gwen reflect on their history and the complex label of enemies. Gwen follows Arthur through the store, watching his back as he pushes Leon's stroller forward. A rhythmic but dumb sounds as Gwen clutches her chest, her heart racing from Arthur's unexpected kindness. The Mart building stands tall against the sunset, marking the location of their impulsive family outing. Arthur excitedly suggests buying a trendy air fryer, but Gwen flatly rejects the unnecessary kitchen purchase. Arthur tries to buy a large Lego set for Leon, but Gwen insists he's too young. Arthur and Leon play inside a display tent, while Gwen watches with a frustrated, silent expression. Gwen angrily takes charge of the shopping, while Arthur playfully teases her about her temper. Gwen feels like she is parenting two sons as Arthur's carefree attitude persists through the store. Gwen attempts to focus on her list, determined to finish the shopping trip as quickly as possible. Gwen reaches for a high shelf when Arthur's footsteps approach with a quick tap sounding. Arthur reaches over Gwen to assist, causing her heart to race with a sudden but doom sounding. Arthur laughs at her height while Gwen insists she has everything under control despite her blushing face. Gwen defends her logic as common sense, avoiding Arthur's soft and appreciative gaze. Leon's hungry cries prompt Gwen to ask for the bag while Arthur quickly moves to help. A rhythmic suck sounds as Leon happily drinks from his bottle while settled in his stroller. Arthur watches the peaceful moment between Gwen and Leon, his expression reflecting a growing, quiet tenderness. A soft chew sounds as Gwen kisses Leon's cheek, completely focused on her baby's comfort. Arthur gazes at Gwen with deep admiration, finding her dedication to Leon truly incredible and amazing. Nearby shoppers steal glances at Arthur, clearly affected by his striking, polished appearance and effortless charm. Arthur prepares to pay at the register, his presence naturally commanding the attention of those nearby. The cashier blushes while Gwen realizes that Arthur's charm is an effortless magnet for attention everywhere. Gwen notices other women whispering behind them, making her feel self-conscious about their public appearance together. Gwen wonders what outsiders think of their relationship as they finish their shopping and head out. Arthur carries the heavy bags through the night, breathlessly huffing while guiding Gwen through the dark. Arthur rejects Gwen's offer to help carry the load, insisting they are nearby their destination anyway. Gwen notices Arthur intentionally slowing his pace to match hers, despite the weight he is carrying. Gwen looks up in confusion as Arthur's presence becomes more protective and attentive in the quiet night. Arthur pulls Gwen closer as they walk, his exhausted expression masked by a sudden protective focus. Arthur panics as a vehicle passes, quickly checking on a sleeping Leon and warning Gwen about safety. Arthur offers a tired smile after the close call, his eyes reflecting a deep, lingering exhaustion. Gwen scolds Arthur's clumsiness before they are interrupted by neighbors mistaking them for a new family. Arthur politely plays along with the neighbors' assumptions while a stunned Gwen watches his easy charm. They return home to find a note from Nana Lydia while Gwen remains lost in thought. Arthur offers help with the items, but Gwen coldly tells him it is finally time to go. Arthur jokes about her coldness before promising to leave after taking a short moment to rest. A sudden whip sounds as Gwen puts a towel over Arthur's head, surprising the purple-haired man. Gwen tells Arthur to wash up while a soft badum sounds from his own racing heart. Arthur emerges from the washroom refreshed, though he lacks a shirt to cover his muscular torso. Leon is hungry again, prompting Gwen to prepare another bottle for the restless baby boy. Arthur enters the room shirtless, startling Gwen into a state of shocked and blushing embarrassment. Gwen yells at Arthur to get dressed while he teases her about their past intimacy on the ship. Arthur encourages Gwen to eat more while they both reflect on the awkwardness of the evening. Arthur apologizes for his behavior earlier, but Gwen remains silent and focused on her young son. A heavy sense of awe fills the room as the two parents sit in uncomfortable silence. Arthur asks Gwen about her plans for tomorrow, learning she is meeting a close friend. Arthur's gaze softens as he asks if she is meeting the friend from their cruise trip. Gwen reactively forbids him from mentioning the cruise, her expression clouded by a painful and lingering memory. Arthur becomes somber, reflecting on the state of his life during that fateful and life-changing ship voyage. Arthur admits he was deeply depressed before his friend pushed him to find someone special. Arthur recalls noticing Gwen on the ship, seeing her struggle to socialize despite her obvious discomfort. Arthur admits he was drawn to her effort to talk to others despite being visibly uncomfortable. A soft badum sounds as Arthur looks at Gwen, the weight of the past hanging between them. Little Leon plays quietly on the mat as Arthur wonders if their current bond is only for him. Gwen asks if Arthur hates her, but he firmly denies it with a quiet and desperate sincerity. Gwen asks if he expects her to hate him for leaving after their one-night stand. Gwen stares down with a heavy heart, her pink hair framing a face filled with silent, somber contemplation. Arthur leans in with a focused gaze, sincerely asking Gwen to help him understand her lingering, painful feelings. Arthur holds Gwen's hands tenderly, his expression reflecting a deep desire to mend their broken and complex connection. Arthur pulls Gwen into a tight embrace, admitting he has been searching for her everywhere this entire time. Gwen's eyes shimmer with unshed tears and a soft blush as Arthur's raw honesty begins to move her. Arthur receives a notification that his ride has arrived, interrupting their emotional moment in the quiet city night. Arthur leans down to bid little Leon a warm goodbye, receiving a cheerful and cute sound in return. Arthur promises to return soon, while Gwen watches him depart, her expression a complex mixture of lingering doubt. Arthur puts on a sharp jacket, briefly revisiting their earlier conversation before preparing to finally take his leave. Arthur gently kisses Gwen's hand, thanking her for the opportunity to prove himself and stay by her side. Arthur looks back one last time with a soft, affectionate gaze, promising to see her and Leon again. A rhythmic tap-tap sounds as Arthur walks away, leaving Gwen standing alone in the quiet, dim hallway. A sharp slam sounds as the door closes, marking the end of their long and emotionally taxing day. Gwen calls Carol late at night, deciding to face her legal troubles by meeting at the law firm tomorrow. Gwen says goodbye to Nana Lydia as a sudden ding sounds from her phone, while baby Leon gurgles happily. Arthur stares at his phone in the back of a car, realizing he never exchanged contact information with Gwen. Arthur's deep thoughts are interrupted by his friend hitting him for being distracted, causing him to react with pain. Gwen arrives at a bright cafe where Carol waves enthusiastically, shouting her name to catch her attention. The friends share a warm embrace, though Carol quickly warns Gwen that Arthur's kindness might be a calculated trap. Gwen defends Arthur's help, noting how much she has learned from Nana Lydia during their short time together. Carol remains skeptical, urging Gwen not to be seduced by the sudden comfort and to keep her guard up. Carol holds Gwen's hands firmly, promising to fight for Leon's future as Gwen offers a sincere word of thanks. The two women stand before the towering law firm, Gwen feeling overwhelmed by the building's prestigious and expensive appearance. They enter the sleek office and are asked to wait, leaving Gwen looking nervous in the formal environment. Carol leaves for the bathroom to manage her nerves, leaving a startled Gwen alone in the quiet waiting room. Gwen sits patiently in the lounge, noticing a man struggling to carry a massive, teetering stock of law books. A sudden "whoa" sounds as the man loses his balance, the heavy books slipping from his frantic grasp. Gwen quickly rushes to assist as the man and his books tumble onto the marble floor with a crash. The blonde-haired man blushes deeply, offering a sheepish smile as he thanks Gwen for her kind and sudden help. Gwen crouches down to gather the scattered volumes, offering to help the stranger carry them to his destination. The man, Gale, is charmed by Gwen's beauty and invites her into his office to talk further. Gwen politely declines as she hands over the books, but Gale desperately asks for her name before she leaves. A red-haired man suddenly appears behind Gwen, reciting legal codes regarding harassment while she looks on in shock. The newcomer lectures Gale on gender sensitivity fines, while Gale looks on with a comical, sweat-dropped expression. The red-haired man, Lance, asks Gwen if she is all right, his sharp eyes fixed on her through his glasses. Gale introduces himself and his partner, Lance Tanaka, who looks exhausted after pulling a difficult, long all-nighter. Gale continues his flirtatious behavior toward Gwen, much to the visible annoyance of the silent and judging Lance. Lance jokingly calls the police to report his partner's creepy antics, causing Gale to frantically beg him to stop. The group settles into a formal meeting room where Lance continues to boo his partner's unprofessional behavior. Gale grows serious about Gwen's case, insisting that they file a formal petition to protect her and Leon. Lance listens with a focused, analytical expression, his sharp intellect clearly working through the details of the case. Gale points toward Lance, boasting that he is one of the top rookies who aced the bar exams. Lance tells Gale to stop with the excessive praise, though he remains composed and ready to get to work. Gwen claps her hands in adoration and relief, feeling a new sense of hope for her son's future. A soft ahem sounds as Lance adjusted his glasses, feeling a bit proud of Gwen's positive reaction. Gale tries to give Gwen his private contact info, prompting a disgusted Lance to label him a creep. Gwen expresses her need to return to Leon, her primary focus remaining on her young son's well-being. Gwen and Lance share coffee at a cafe, while Lance warns her about Gale's eccentric and difficult personality. Lance looks down as he admits to asking Carol to keep certain details hidden from Gwen until now. Lance questions why Gwen even agreed to Arthur's suspicious terms, suspecting the man is only acting in his own favor. A sudden bam sounds as Lance slams the table, startling Gwen while she reflects on her difficult past. Lance notes that Arthur has redeemable moments despite the difficult situation resulting from their past one-night stand. Lance observes that Gwen looked a bit happy while talking about Arthur, causing the pink-haired woman to look down. Gwen admits she is also at fault for their past encounter, before apologizing for boring Lance with her ramblings. Gwen offers a bright smile, expressing her relief and surprise that Lance will be the one handling her case. Lance looks at Gwen with a stunned expression, momentarily silenced by her sincere and warm words of gratitude. A flashback shows Lance at a formal dinner, learning that his superior has agreed to expand the law firm. Lance finds himself torn between his ambitious career advancement and staying near the person he truly likes. Coming from a poor family, Lance views this professional opportunity as the lucky break he has always wanted. Back in the present, Lance apologizes for ditching Gwen during their date, leaving her looking visibly confused. Gwen looks at Lance warmly, expressing how proud she is of him for achieving his dream of owning a firm. Gwen tells Lance that what is done as they sit together in the quiet, sunlit cafe. Gwen bids Lance goodbye to return to Leon, while he encourages her to contact him for any future needs. Lance watches Gwen walk away into the crowd, pondering her words about the past while his expression remains somber. Gwen walks through the busy city street, unaware of the lingering thoughts Lance has about their changing relationship.
Gwen pauses and begins to turn her head, as if sensing someone approaching her from behind in the crowd.
Lance suddenly pulls Gwen into a firm embrace from behind, his hands resting protectively on her shoulders. Gwen receives a notification from Nana Lydia showing a photo of a cute Leon wearing a white bunny hat. The scene shifts back to the street where Gwen continues her walk, surrounded by the silhouettes of many strangers. A sudden shout of her name causes Gwen to turn in surprise toward the source of the loud call. Lance pulls Gwen close again, his protective instincts surfacing as he holds the pink-haired woman tightly against him. A soft gasp sounds from Gwen as she reacts with shock and a deep blush to Lance's sudden embrace. Passers-by whisper about a potential film shooting, while Gwen looks completely bewildered by Lance's bold and public behavior. Lance leans in with an intense gaze, his expression reflecting a newfound determination to stay by Gwen's side. Lance firmly vows to protect Gwen, his arms wrapped around her as they stand in the middle of the street. Gwen stands alone in the street, her expression one of frozen shock following the red-haired man's intense declaration. Lance bids her a final farewell, leaving Gwen staring after him as he disappears into the busy city crowd. Gwen looks on with wide eyes and a complex expression, clearly moved by the unexpected turn of events.
Gwen talks to Carol on a crowded bus, discussing the flirty and disastrous encounter with the lawyer earlier.
Gwen admits on the phone that she feels more confident knowing Lance is the one taking care of her. Gwen wonders about the meaning behind Lance's words, while a transparent image of his vow lingers in her mind. Gwen ends her call as she nears home, the sunset sky painting the apartment buildings in warm orange hues.
Nana Lydia offers a warm welcome, while baby Leon lets out a cute giggle in his bunny hat.
Gwen kisses Leon, while Nana Lydia mentions that Artie might not be able to visit them tonight. Gwen plays with Leon in their living room, reflecting on how long it has been since they were alone. A sudden ring sounds as Gwen picks up her phone after promising to keep Leon safe and loved. Lance calls Gwen late at night, asking if the caretaker she mentioned earlier is still available for her. Gwen teases Lance about invading a person's space, causing the red-haired man to react with flustered and shocked surprise. Lance blushes deeply as he hears Gwen's laughter over the phone, his expression reflecting his growing affection for her. Lance regains his professional composure and explains they need more information regarding Arthur Morante for the legal case. Gwen's expression becomes somber and focused as the conversation turns toward the father of her young son. A series of memories show Nana Lydia caring for Leon and Gwen, highlighting the warmth of their current household. 3 days pass since Arthur's last visit, leaving Gwen to wonder if he is simply too busy with work. A rhythmic ring sounds during bath time as Nana Lydia informs Gwen that Artie cannot make it today. Gwen realizes with a sad expression that she lacks any contact information for the man she once loved. Gwen looks stunned as she realizes she never figured she would truly need a way to reach Arthur. The scene shifts to a sleek corporate office where an assistant encourages an exhausted purple-haired man to rest.
Arthur Morante reflects on his late father's housing project, determined to make the ambitious deal work this time.
A weary sigh sounds from Arthur as he sits at his desk, overwhelmed by the heavy weight of his responsibilities.
2 stuffed lion toys, dressed as a bride and groom, sit quietly on a shelf in Arthur's formal office.
Arthur and Nana discuss Gwen's rejection, with Nana criticizing Arthur's past behavior toward the woman. Arthur promises to ask Gwen to live with him properly next time, while Nana emphasizes doing things right. Arthur looks stunned as Nana reveals she already possesses Gwen's contact information, much to his surprise. Arthur sits alone in his office, looking at a stuffed lion, while wondering what Gwen and Leon are doing. The scene shifts to the massive glass exterior of the corporate skyscraper where Arthur's office is located. Gareth bids Gwen good luck as she steps out of the car, looking nervously at the towering building. A memory shows Nana tasking Gwen with delivering a forgotten item to Arthur, promising to watch Leon. Gwen views this delivery as a perfect opportunity to gather legal information about Arthur for Lance. Gwen stands in the busy lobby, her anxiety rising as she faces the intimidating corporate environment once more. Gwen introduces herself at the reception desk, but the blonde attendant notes she isn't on the schedule. Gwen considers calling Nana for help while the brown-haired Percy observes her curiously from behind. Percy leans in close to Gwen, a sudden sounding as he tries to remember her face. Inside the elevator, Percy realizes they met on a cruise years ago and greets her with high energy. Percy identifies himself as Arthur's friend and reveals that Arthur was the one who approached Gwen first. Gwen reflects on the truth of Arthur's past claims, while Percy laughs and asks her to stay quiet. Percy plots a surprise for Arthur, encouraging Gwen to hide in his office for a sudden reveal. Arthur is furious with Percy for barging in until he notices the pink-haired Gwen standing behind him. A sudden "ack" sounds as Percy begs Gwen for protection from the angry, approaching purple-haired man. Percy insists he and Gwen have already bonded, causing Arthur to look on with deep, visible annoyance. Percy whispers that Arthur is super jealous, finding the situation hilarious while Gwen looks on in confusion. Arthur stares intensely at Gwen, who wonders if he truly feels the jealousy Percy is describing. Dark energy and a flaming do-om sound as Arthur threatens Percy, who frantically begs for mercy. Arthur pulls Gwen away and tells Percy to leave, ignoring his friend's desperate cries about his coffee. Arthur asks about her sudden visit, and Gwen explains she is delivering the item Nana mentioned he forgot. Arthur is touched by Nana's helpfulness while Gwen holds the tube case she brought for him. Arthur suddenly pulls Gwen into a tight, protective embrace, a backdrop of flowers emphasizing the romantic tension. Arthur leans in with a gentle smile, telling Gwen he is simply recharging his energy while she blushes. Arthur admits how much he missed her, his gaze soft as he holds the stunned pink-haired woman. A mental image shows baby Leon happily playing with a dancing cactus toy in his colorful nursery. Gwen looks away with a conflicted expression, clearly moved by Arthur's sudden and intense display of affection. Arthur continues to gaze at Gwen with warmth and tenderness, his previous anger completely forgotten. Arthur warns Gwen not to talk to strangers, prompting her to scoff at his overly protective attitude. A rhythmic ring ring sounds as Gwen's phone goes off while Arthur continues to warn her about Percy. Gwen answers the call, thanking Lance for his help earlier, while a disgruntled Arthur watches her closely. Gwen relays Percy's message about the forgotten coffee, but Arthur irritably rejects it after hearing Lance's name. Arthur looks softly at Gwen before she reminds him of Nana's message and watches him walk away. Arthur retreats into his office with the delivery, leaving Gwen standing alone in the large room. Gwen looks on with a somber and thoughtful expression, reflecting on the complexity of her situation. Gwen notices the stuffed lion couple on the desk before telling Arthur she needs to leave immediately. Gwen reflects on how uncomfortable the room makes her, as it reminds her of their fateful first night. Arthur invites her to stay longer, but a resolute Gwen turns and begins to walk out the door. Gwen mentally apologizes to Lance, regretting that she failed to gather any useful information regarding Arthur. Gwen firmly tells Arthur she wants to avoid misunderstandings or causing any further trouble between them. Arthur listens in silence as Gwen sets her boundaries, his expression reflecting a mix of sadness and regret. A sudden gasp sounds as Percy pulls Gwen away, claiming Arthur is taking a break outside. Arthur pulls Gwen into a quiet corner, silencing her as he mentions he's been working overtime for days. Arthur holds Gwen close in the dim light, explaining how important the land project was to his father. A woman in a gray blouse complains about someone treating the company like a personal playground. The woman instructs Percy to negotiate with the sellers quickly before Arthur has the chance to interfere. Gwen looks up at Arthur with a deep blush, the tension between them growing in their hidden spot. Gwen notices a dramatic shift in Arthur's personality, finding his professional demeanor unexpectedly serious and focused compared to his usual self. Arthur meets Gwen's gaze with a calm and concentrated expression, continuing to display a disciplined side of himself she rarely sees. Arthur sheepishly apologizes for the corporate chaos while preparing to leave, noting that the situation was finally handled thanks to Percy. Gwen reaches out and grabs Arthur's pinstriped sleeve, gently reminding the purple-haired man that his scheduled break time isn't quite over. The scene shifts to a serene rooftop garden where the pair finds a quiet spot to talk away from the office. Arthur smiles broadly at Gwen, finding it refreshing and knew that she was the one to initiate their time together outside. Sitting together with canned drinks, Gwen admits she misjudged his workload, while a defensive Arthur insists he is a man contributing to society. From a distance, the two relax on a wooden bench as Gwen confesses her previous belief that he was always just playing. Arthur gazes at his drink and admits his true feelings about working, sharing that he lacks the lofty goals Gwen assumed he had. Arthur explains the company was an inheritance from his father, leading Gwen to tease him about his lack of visible sadness. Gwen ponders the weight of Arthur's words, curious about the normal dream he claims to hold despite his wealthy corporate status. Arthur describes his simple desire for love and a family, his voice carrying across the peaceful, sun-drenched rooftop garden. A series of happy, sun-drenched memories flicker through Gwen's mind, showing her and baby Leon with a shadowed, loving father figure. Arthur gazes at Gwen with undeniable warmth and tenderness, his expression revealing the deep sincerity behind his wish for a happy life. The pair sits in a comfortable, quiet silence as the romantic atmosphere of the rooftop garden heightens the emotional tension between them. Gwen blushes deeply and covers her mouth, visibly overwhelmed by the unexpected vulnerability and romance in Arthur's quiet confession. A heavy sigh escapes Arthur as he leans forward, weighed down by the exhausting reality of his corporate and familial responsibilities. Arthur leans closer to the pink-haired woman, admitting that his enjoyment of her company has been a constant feeling since the beginning. Gwen stares back at him with a stunned expression, her previous skepticism clearly wavering under his persistent and honest display of affection. A soft tap sounds as Gwen reaches out to poke Arthur's cheek, testing if his romantic words are truly genuine this time. Arthur lets out a gentle, "huh," a smirk playing on his lips as he welcomes Gwen's rare moment of physical playfulness. Arthur thanks Gwen for the break, realizing her sudden invitation was born out of genuine concern for his well-being earlier. Gwen's chibi face turns bright red as she denies being worried, while a smirking Arthur continues to tease her for being shy. Arthur reflects on his painful family situation, apologizing for his recent absence as the afternoon sun begins to shift in the sky. Gwen stands up and prepares to leave, but Arthur tries to keep her there, insisting that it is still very early. A close-up focus on their shoes emphasizes the transition as Gwen prepares to step away from their private, quiet moment. Gwen turns back with a sharp, firm look, reminding Arthur that she is still strictly evaluating his potential to be Leon's father. Arthur's face softens into a tender smile, clearly moved by Gwen's focus on their son, despite her guarded and defensive attitude. Gwen marches away, determined to go home, while Arthur laughs and teases her about checking him out one last time. Arthur holds up his smartphone and asks for Gwen's number, wanting a direct way to coordinate his future visits with Leon. Arthur playfully asks to message her multiple times a day, which a flustered Gwen rejects with an indignant chibi glare. The tension melts as they look at a photo of Leon, with both parents in warm agreement that their son is absolutely cute. A sudden boop sounds as Arthur reaches out to poke Gwen's cheek, catching the pink-haired woman completely off guard once again. Arthur whispers that Leon inherited his cuteness from his mother, sending a loud but dumb thumping through Gwen's racing heart. A crisp ding sounds as Arthur waves a final, winking goodbye from the closing elevator, leaving a stunned Gwen behind. Gwen stands alone in the elevator, her expression a mix of confusion and lingering shock following Arthur's bold and charming flirtation. Gwen leans against the elevator wall, her hand over her chest as a rhythmic but dumb sounds from her racing heart,
Gwen looks down at her sneakers, frustrated that Arthur can say such romantic things so easily without any visible hesitation.
Gwen stares at the elevator buttons and admits to herself that she strangely enjoys being in the purple-haired man's presence.
Gwen steps out of the building and into the bustling city, trying to shake off the influence of the incorrigible flirt. Gwen's expression is somber and focused as she walks, her mind still preoccupied by the emotional encounter in the office.
Nearby, a red-haired woman leans on a man, loudly demanding to know where someone has been all this time.
Gwen's eyes widen in shock as she spots the familiar red-haired woman standing just a few feet away from her.
The red-haired woman smiles with a predatory intensity, her gaze fixed directly on the stunned and frozen pink-haired woman. Gwen continues her walk through the crowded street, her thoughts swirling as she tries to maintain her composure and move forward. Back inside the office, Arthur smiles as he looks at his phone, already planning his next call to Gwen. Gwen stops in her tracks, looking nervously at the red-haired woman who seems to be questioning her presence at the building. A rhythmic tap-tap sounds as the red-haired woman approaches Gwen with a confident and intimidatingly slow stride.
The two women stand face to face in a tense standoff, the red-haired woman's smirk contrasting with Gwen's visible and growing discomfort.
A bead of sweat rolls down Gwen's cheek as she looks up, feeling cornered by the sudden and unwelcome corporate confrontation.
Gwen walks away, her back turned as she reflects on the painful childhood memories that continue to haunt her. In a memory, Camilla mockingly questions Gwen's ability to cook, highlighting the constant criticism she faced at home.
Gwen recalls being told that her parents were already separated by the time she was born due to differences.
The pink-haired woman describes herself as a child of a loveless marriage, while Camilla's smirking face looms nearby. Gwen's father dismissively leaves her to guard the house while he takes Camilla on a desired weekend trip. Gwen overhears her parents whispering about her future, feeling unwanted as they discuss her living on her own.
Despite her tireless efforts to clean and fit in, Gwen reflects on how foolish she was to seek acceptance. Determined to escape, Gwen took on multiple part-time jobs to save enough money for her own apartment. The pink-haired woman looks back on the exhausting days and nights she spent working to secure her independence. Gwen is shown eating alone in a cramped alleyway, a poignant reminder of her isolated and difficult journey.
Her father briefly appears to invite her inside, but Gwen remains haunted by the emotional distance in her family.
The memory of her father fades as Gwen stares out from the shadows, still feeling alone in her struggle. Gwen reflects on taking things for granted before a sudden, sickly "erp" sounds as she is overcome by nausea.
A blurg echoes as Gwen gets sick, while Camilla descends the stairs to accuse her of slacking off. Back in the present, Gwen's eyes reflect the lingering pain of the bad memories she cannot stop recalling.
Camilla looms over Gwen with a cold and arrogant stance, intensifying the pressure of their unwelcome confrontation. The man accompanying Camilla tries to intervene, but the red-haired woman insists she is merely greeting her sister. Gwen firmly states that Camilla's family never provided the love she needed, standing her ground for the first time.
Camilla sneers at Gwen's new confidence, cruelly attributing her spine to being pregnant by a random stranger.
Gwen is visibly shaken by the insult, her hand clutching her chest as she struggles with the public humiliation. The pink-haired woman mutters a panicked denial, her mind reeling from Camilla's vicious and targeted verbal attack. A sharp ding sounds as Arthur steps out of the elevator, his presence immediately shifting the atmosphere of the room.
Arthur's expression is cold and focused as he takes in the scene, his protective instincts clearly flaring up.
Camilla looks on with annoyance while her companion questions the identity of the powerful man who just arrived. Arthur curtly announces he is leaving, walking past a stunned Camilla as Gwen follows closely behind him.
The purple-haired man casts a final, intimidating glance toward Camilla, ensuring she won't follow them further.
As they depart, Camilla and her man watch Gwen and Arthur walk away,
their expressions filled with confusion. The scene transitions to the exterior of the building as the midday sun shines down on the city streets. Arthur rushes after Gwen, calling out her name as she marches away with a look of deep distress. Gwen refuses to stop, her back turned to Arthur as she tries to hide her tears and composure. Tears flow down Gwen's cheeks as she resolves to keep her family issues separate from her relationship with Arthur. Arthur reaches out a gentle hand toward Gwen's shoulder, his touch desperate to provide comfort and support. Gwen stops and turns back as Arthur softly asks if she will at least hear what he has to say. The pink-haired woman looks up at him with teary eyes, her vulnerability laid bare in the quiet park. Arthur speaks with deep sincerity, explaining that he genuinely wants to understand her without forcing her to share. With a soft and earnest expression, Arthur reiterates his strong desire to help Gwen with her burdens. Arthur leans closer to the distressed woman, his presence becoming a source of warmth amidst her emotional turmoil. A heart-wrenching sob escapes Gwen as she finally lets go of her emotions in front of him. Arthur watches Gwen cry with a look of profound empathy, his usual confidence replaced by genuine concern. Gwen wipes her tears, her expression reflecting the immense weight of the family trauma she has been carrying. Arthur's side profile shows his intense focus on Gwen as he waits for her to find her voice again. The two stand in a comfortable silence, the surrounding greenery of the park emphasizing the intimacy of the moment. Arthur refers back to their last significant conversation, his tone indicating that he has much more to say. Arthur admits he wished to speak under better circumstances, but finds it impossible to remain silent any longer. Arthur gently lifts Gwen's chin with his fingers, mentioning Leon as he draws her into a deep gaze. Gwen is captured by Arthur's intense and loving look, her breath hitching as she waits for his next words. The purple-haired man holds Gwen's chin delicately, the romantic tension between them building in the sunlit garden. A close-up of their faces shows Arthur leaning in closer, his expression revealing the depth of his affection. Arthur gazes at Gwen with undeniable tenderness, his previous walls completely broken down by her vulnerability. Holding Gwen's chin, Arthur confesses that he has been thinking deeply about their situation and their future. Gwen looks down with a somber expression, admitting she is ashamed of how she handled their past. Arthur meets her gaze with deep sincerity, declaring his firm intention to take full responsibility for their situation. Gwen is visibly confused by Arthur's sudden intensity, reminding him that she has already granted him visitation rights. Arthur emphasizes that he has no regrets about their past, while Gwen listens with her hand over her heart. A gentle, tender smile touches Arthur's lips as he watches Gwen's stunned reaction to his unwavering resolve. Gwen gazes up at him, her eyes reflecting her inner turmoil as she processes his heavy, emotional words. Arthur's blunt admission about the night they shared leaves Gwen completely speechless and blushing furiously in the park. Gwen's chibi face turns bright red as she scolds Arthur for being so casual about such private, intimate memories. Arthur's expression remains deeply serious, his eyes full of hidden emotions as he maintains his intense focus on Gwen. A sharp ring sounds as Arthur answers his phone, while a worried Gwen stands quietly by his side. Gwen bows her head in thought, reflecting on the complicated meaning of family as she tries to find clarity. Gwen recalls her lonely childhood and her cold, distant relatives, wondering why she was always treated with such cruelty. Memories of baby Leon's birth remind Gwen of her vow to provide her son with the perfect, loving family. Arthur's persistent presence flashes through Gwen's mind, highlighting how much her world has changed since he reappeared. Gwen questions why a man of Arthur's high status would choose her as she recalls their passionate encounter. Gwen watches Arthur hold their son, acknowledging that his presence is undeniably what is best for little Leon. Gwen argues that they are strangers without love, but Arthur challenges her to try building something real together. Arthur leans in close, his gaze heavy with intent as he questions if Gwen is currently seeing another man. Gwen stammers a panicked denial while Arthur looms over her, his presence overwhelming her defenses in the quiet park. Arthur promises a deeper conversation later and offers Gwen a ride home as he prepares to face his secrets. Gwen's expression remains guarded and pained as she reflects on the real, hidden reason she tried to stay away. In the boardroom, Arthur's aunt fumes over his unprofessional absence while an assistant desperately tries to cover for him. Camilla and her companion wait impatiently as the aunt apologizes for Arthur's tardiness during the high-stakes business meeting. The atmosphere is tense as the group discusses the legal necessity of an heir from a valid marriage. A gray-haired lawyer adjusts his glasses, explaining that they require specific authority to proceed with the legal agreement. Camilla's eyes narrow with sudden realization and shock as she begins to piece together the identity of the missing heir. The deal stalls as the lawyer explains the legal roadblocks, leaving the corporate group in a state of frustrated uncertainty. Camilla's face contorts with rage and disbelief as she connects the dots back to her sister, Gwen. The lawyer insists that the heir must attend the next meeting, while Camilla and her partner stand in the hallway. Arthur finally arrives, looking composed as he offers a curt apology to the lawyer and the waiting red-haired woman. Camilla stares at Arthur with a predatory, suspicious gaze, realizing he is the powerful man who was with Gwen. Arthur's aunt demands an explanation for his absence, her expression cold and demanding as she confronts her wayward nephew. Arthur dismisses the tension with a lighthearted smile and a casual apology, much to his aunt's visible annoyance. As his aunt walks away, Arthur's playful mask slips, revealing the exhaustion and weight of his dual life. Arthur admits to his friend Percy that he is considering resigning, feeling the strain of his corporate responsibilities. Arthur runs a hand through his hair and stuns Percy by casually announcing his intention to get married. Percy's chibi face explodes in shock as Arthur reveals the existence of his child, leaving his friend completely flabbergasted. Arthur calmly lists the few people who know his secret, while Percy struggles to process the massive revelation. With his arms crossed, Arthur reflects on his son's age, his expression softening momentarily as he speaks of Leon. Arthur explains that he has hidden Gwen and Leon for protection, though Percy remains stunned by the cruise trip timeline. Arthur admits his fear that a normal approach would have failed, justifying his protective, albeit manipulative, actions to Percy. Arthur acknowledges his mistakes and his selfish fear of Gwen running away again, while Percy listens in silence. Percy smiles and notes Gwen's undeniable beauty, causing a protective, chibi Arthur to scowl at his friend. A sudden flume sounds as Percy humorously tells Arthur to calm down and relax after this simple compliment. Arthur confesses that he has been captivated by Gwen since the very first moment they met. Memories of their intimate night resurface, highlighting Arthur's deep desire to understand and take care of the pink-haired woman. Little Leon laughs and claps happily, a joyful reminder of the family Arthur is now determined to protect. Percy smirks as he realizes how deeply Arthur has fallen in love, empathizing with the burden his friend carries. Percy offers to cover Arthur's workload as a gesture of friendship, encouraging him to go home to his family. Chibi Arthur is delighted by the offer, but Percy frantically clarifies that he is only helping out for today. Camilla complains about not selling the property, while her companion suggests they should simply talk to Gwen about it. Camilla angrily rejects the idea, recalling how they have been acting behind Gwen's back since their father's death. Scheming eyes reveal Camilla's deep resentment as she contemplates her next move against her pink-haired sister. Camilla recalls seeing Arthur and Gwen together, suspecting he is the missing piece connected to her nephew. Little Leon sits mesmerized by the colorful cartoon sharks dancing on the television screen. Returning home, Gwen informs Nana that she was successful in delivering the items to Arthur. Gwen warmly thanks the gray-haired Nana for her help, while the elderly woman insists she enjoys the company. Nana offers her continued support as Gwen lovingly cuddles a happy Leon in her arms. A tender moment shows Gwen holding her son close, her eyes reflecting a mix of love and lingering worry. Gwen reflects on the kindness surrounding her, feeling like a bad person for her own guarded nature. A happy squeal escapes Leon as he rolls around on his bed with a favorite plush lion. Gwen tells Leon she is going for a quick bath, leaving the toddler to play safely in his room. In the steam of the shower, Gwen is haunted by thoughts of Camilla and Arthur's recent family proposal. Arthur walks in unannounced with groceries, his presence instantly causing Leon to squeal with delight. With a soft chew, Arthur kisses Leon, marveling at how much the boy has grown in just 3 days. Leon giggles as Arthur playfully asks if he missed his daddy during their short time apart. Holding a happy Leon, Arthur leans against the wall and wonders aloud where Gwen has gone. Gwen emerges from the bathroom wrapped in a pink towel, her eyes widening in shock at Arthur's presence. A stunned silence falls over the room as Arthur and Leon gaze at the vulnerable woman in the doorway. With a loud bam, Gwen slams the bathroom door, frantically shouting for Arthur to use the doorbell. Arthur blinks in surprise while Leon says, "Goo," both looking bewildered by Gwen's sudden panicked reaction. Trying to lighten the mood, Arthur sings "Aye" to a very amused Leon sitting in his high chair. Now dressed in lemon print pajamas, Gwen scolds Arthur, who explains he was too excited to wait after work. Arthur offers to help dry her hair, mentioning his experience caring for his 2 younger sisters. Gwen reluctantly agrees, surprised to learn that Arthur is the responsible eldest sibling of 3. As the hairdryer goes rrr, Arthur reveals he is 31, making him 5 years older than Gwen. Gwen looks at Arthur with new eyes, finding his maturity and handsome appearance surprisingly charming. Gwen realizes Arthur has extensive experience with children, far more than she originally assumed. Gwen feels a pang of guilt, recalling the mean things she said about Arthur's lack of parenting knowledge. A soft blush touches Gwen's cheeks as she notices Arthur's willingness to share his personal history. Emboldened by his honesty, Gwen gathers her courage to ask Arthur about the rest of his family. Gwen resolves to be fair and open up about her own past to bridge the distance between them. Arthur stands behind Gwen, his steady hands holding the hairdryer as he prepares to answer her. Arthur admits his biological father left for another family, but his guardian raised him as his own. Gwen reveals Camilla is her half-sister, and she was treated as an unwanted guest after her father's death. A soft click sounds as Arthur turns off the hairdryer, the intimate conversation coming to an end. Arthur announces a special performance, shifting the heavy mood into something light and playful. Arthur begins a baby shark routine, his serious demeanor completely replaced by goofy enthusiasm. Arthur claps his hands together, singing the lyrics to the popular children's song for a captive Leon. The purple-haired man continues his do performance, much to the amusement of his family. Arthur puts his hands on his head like a shark fin, fully committing to the silly routine. Leon watches in awe as Arthur performs another energetic do dance move. Gwen's jaw drops in utter disbelief, her mind struggling to process Arthur's uncharacteristically silly behavior. Leon lets out a joyful "Ayah!" his little fists pumping as he cheers for Arthur's energetic dance. Gwen manages a faint question about what he's doing, while Arthur keeps up the spirited performance. Gwen finally bursts into a genuine ha-ha, her laughter filling the room as Arthur watches her warmly. Arthur suggests they eat some snacks, revealing he brought a large spread of food for their dinner. Ta-da! A feast of fried chicken, waffles, and iced drinks is laid out on the floor. The 3 enjoy a cozy indoor picnic, the atmosphere in the apartment becoming truly domestic and peaceful. Gwen smiles softly, her heart feeling lighter as she finds herself truly enjoying Arthur's company. Arthur notes Leon's love for the cartoon sharks, mentioning Nana's complaints about hearing the song on repeat. Gwen watches her happy son, deciding that his joy is what matters most in their current situation. Arthur leans on his hand, softly remarking that it has been quite a while since he saw Gwen laugh. Arthur proposes a family outing tomorrow, but Gwen hesitates, telling him he doesn't need to try so hard. Arthur's gaze is steady and sincere as he listens to Gwen's concerns about their complicated dynamic. Thinking of her late father, Gwen reflects on her desire to move forward and provide a family for Leon. Flashbacks of chores and lonely moments reinforce Gwen's belief that Leon deserves to grow up with a father. Gwen warns that playing family might hurt Leon since they aren't in love, sharing her own painful experiences. Arthur listens intently, his expression unreadable but focused as Gwen opens up about her fears for their son. The two sit in a heavy silence, Gwen looking away as the weight of her past struggles fills the room. Memories of the cruise ship return, showing Arthur kneeling before Gwen in their dimly lit hotel room. Arthur offers to walk Gwen back, his purple eyes fixed on her as he gently asks for her room number. Gwen admires his dependability, wondering aloud why his supposed fiancé would ever choose to leave such a man. A sudden "ah" escapes Gwen as she reacts to Arthur's proximity, her cheeks flushing in the quiet room. Arthur admits that others view him as a worthless playboy, but he feels uniquely comfortable whenever he is with Gwen. Arthur questions if Gwen is seeing anyone, while she counters by asking about the status of his own fiancé. Arthur looks at her with a soft, genuine smile, the intimacy between them growing as they share their secrets. Kneeling on the floor, Arthur holds Gwen's hands and explains he only came to avoid wasting their reservations. Arthur asks to keep seeing her after the trip ends, and Gwen softly agrees while they hold hands tightly. The two lean in close, their breath hitching as the magnetic pull between them becomes impossible to ignore. In the moonlight, Arthur asks Gwen to stay the night, the romantic tension reaching a fever pitch. A bright, colorful title card for Hello Baby signals a major turning point in the couple's history. Gwen wakes up in bed, realizing their night together wasn't a dream, as Arthur sleeps soundly beside her. Panic sets in as Gwen stares at her reflection, shocked by her own boldness during their one-night stand. Gwen looks at the sleeping Arthur, wondering if two strangers can truly become something more after just one night. A soft chew sounds as Gwen kisses him goodbye, but her phone suddenly erupts with a frantic buzzing sound. Gwen's heart sinks as she sees dozens of missed calls and a message about her father's emergency hospitalization. Terrified by the news of her father's cardiac arrest, Gwen realizes she must leave the ship immediately. Looking back at the sleeping Arthur one last time, Gwen makes the agonizing choice to face the emergency alone. Gwen slips out of the room, whispering a tearful apology to Arthur as she disappears into the hallway. Back in the present, Arthur reveals he met the woman Gwen described as her ex-fiancé during his search. Gwen is visibly shaken and flustered, her hands trembling as Arthur's revelations piece together the missing past. Gwen looks down with a pained expression, haunted by the memory of the face she left behind that morning.
Arthur insists he has the guest list, his tone firm as he addresses Gwen while Leon claps nearby.
Arthur's purple eyes burn with intensity, demanding the truth as they confront the secrets of their shared history. Gwen remains silent, her profile showing a mix of regret and hesitation as the past finally catches up. Arthur looks down, his expression softening with a hint of sadness as he waits for her response. Gwen's gaze is heavy with unspoken words, the lemon print of her pajamas contrasting with the serious mood. Arthur clarifies that his previous relationship was long over, and he is currently single, seeking Gwen's full attention. Arthur reminds her of his desperate search to find her, his gaze pleading for understanding and a fresh start. Arthur apologizes for his secret investigation into her life, leaving Gwen stunned by his brutal honesty and dedication. Arthur leans in, his face mere inches from Gwen's as he silently asks for her trust once more. A gentle hand reaches out to stroke Gwen's pink hair, the touch light and full of unspoken affection. Arthur pulls Gwen into a tender embrace, leaning his forehead against hers as the tension finally breaks. With his eyes closed, Arthur finds solace in her presence, his hand resting protectively against her pink hair. Gwen's eyes widen in shock as she processes the warmth of his touch and the sincerity of his words. Arthur pleads for another chance to prove himself to both Gwen and Leon, his heart laid bare. Arthur holds Gwen close, their bodies finally aligned as they face the uncertain future of their family together. Little Leon looks up with wide, curious eyes, his tiny hands raised in a gesture of pure wonder. Gwen blushes deeply, a small smile playing on her lips as she feels the hope of a real beginning. The red-haired man adjusts his glasses, suspecting that Gwen hasn't shared the entire truth about her situation. In a quiet bar, the red-haired man and his companion reflect on their past roles in Gwen's journey. The green-haired woman looks down at her drink, her expression heavy with the burden of old memories. A flashback shows the two women at a reception desk, discussing the father's refusal to acknowledge the pregnancy. The green-haired woman comforts a distraught Gwen, offering her steady support during a moment of deep vulnerability. Back in the present, the green-haired woman sighs over her drink, acknowledging the long, difficult path they've walked. The red-haired man listens thoughtfully, his serious demeanor reflecting the weight of the conversation. He suggests that moving forward is possible if Gwen is willing to mutually accept their new reality. Gwen, dressed in lemon print pajamas, stands with Leon and Arthur as they discuss the concept of a loving family. Holding Leon tightly, Gwen asks Arthur if he truly believes they can build a healthy home together. Arthur gazes at Gwen with a soft, affectionate smile that radiates genuine warmth and sincerity. Arthur reaches out to playfully boop Leon's cheek, promising to fix the misunderstandings that kept them apart. The three stand together in the living room, the atmosphere shifting toward a newfound sense of domestic unity. Bright morning light shines over the tall apartment buildings, marking the start of a significant day for them. Arthur proposes seeing each other at least twice a week to properly establish their presence in each other's lives. Gwen looks surprised by the suggestion, while Arthur explains he only has a limited time to prove himself. The family shares a peaceful moment around the table as Leon contentedly drinks from his bottle. Arthur gently pats Leon's head, emphasizing that Gwen must be present for all their future family meetings. When Leon chirps "goo," Arthur jokingly uses the baby's babbling as confirmation of their new agreement. Gwen smiles softly at her son, remarking that he's just babbling while Arthur looks on with affection. Nana watches from the kitchen, her expression a mix of amusement and lingering worry for the young couple. A sudden ding-dong rings out, prompting Arthur to look toward the door with an expectant expression. Ta-da! Arthur reveals a new baby car seat, much to the surprise of both Gwen and little Leon. Gwen wonders how Arthur found the time, while he insists on providing for Leon as a true father. Arthur gazes at Gwen with intense sincerity, determined to seize this opportunity to make things right. Gwen's cheeks flush pink as she processes the depth of Arthur's commitment to their son's well-being. Nana encourages them to enjoy their family bonding time, gracefully opting out of the upcoming outing. Alone for a moment, Gwen stares downward, her heart beginning to open to the possibility of a future. She reflects on their recent time together, admitting that being with Arthur has actually been quite fun. A tall, formidable man in sunglasses greets Gwen with a polite "good morning," startling her with his arrival. The man, Gareth, presents a sleek new baby carriage, explaining it is another gift for Sir Leon. Gareth mentions that Arthur is currently installing the car seat himself after learning the process from online videos. Gwen expresses concern for the safety of Arthur's installation, but Gareth reassures her he will double-check everything. Gareth recounts how excited Arthur was the previous night when asking for help to choose the best gear. A glimpse of moving boxes on the floor serves as a reminder of Gareth's long-standing assistance to Gwen. Gareth notes that it has been a very long time since he last saw Arthur looking this genuinely happy. Gwen listens with a thoughtful expression, her perspective on Arthur's character continuing to evolve through these stories. In the parking garage, Arthur waits by a white SUV, looking patient and composed in his black shirt. Gwen arrives carrying Leon, who looks adorable in a blue cap and striped overalls for their trip.
Arthur greets them with a charming smile, asking if Gwen is ready to begin their day together. Leon is safely buckled into the new car seat, reaching out to play with a yellow toy ring. The view from inside the car shows the family ready to embark on their first real adventure. Arthur excitedly notes the significance of their first trip, while Gwen looks on with wide, surprised eyes. The tension spikes as Arthur leans in close to assist Gwen, his arm grazing hers in the small space. Arthur's gaze is tender and focused as he looks at Gwen, the intimacy of the moment palpable. Gwen blushes deeply, turning her head as she feels the magnetic pull between her and the purple-haired man. The white SUV drives down the busy street as the engine lets out a low, steady vroom. The scene transitions to a grand, multi-level shopping mall with sleek escalators and a bright, airy design. Pedestrians stroll through the modern mall walkway, passing high-end luxury shops and busy cafes. Arthur pushes the stroller through the mall, explaining to Gwen his plan to buy essentials for their home. Gwen protests that buying expensive clothes is a waste since Leon grows so quickly, but Arthur remains persistent. A polite store manager warmly welcomes Arthur back, greeting the purple-haired man with a professional and friendly smile. Arthur explains they are looking for baby clothes, while Gwen remains flustered by the store's clear opulence. Gwen continues to argue against the unnecessary spending, though Arthur playfully dismisses her concerns with a grin. The manager shows them adorable outfits while Gwen holds Leon tightly, still feeling hesitant about the extravagant shopping. Arthur rests a protective arm around Gwen's shoulder, his gaze tender as he watches her interact with their son. Gwen looks up at Arthur, surprised by the sudden intimacy and the genuine warmth radiating from his purple eyes. A close-up reveals Gwen's internal conflict as she feels the magnetic pull of Arthur's presence during their outing. Little Leon models a variety of stylish outfits, looking incredibly cute in everything from sunglasses to a holiday sweater. Gwen's heart melts at the sight of her son, her hands covering her blushing face in pure adoration. Gwen happily captures photos of Leon in his new clothes, while the manager looks on with an amused smile. Arthur stands back, his expression softening with affection as he realizes how much Gwen loves seeing Leon happy. The atmosphere shifts as Gwen realizes Arthur is watching her, leaving her momentarily stunned and flustered by his attention. Arthur reflects on Gwen's unique nature, noting that she seems uncomfortable with the material gifts most women would crave. A flashback depicts Arthur's past life, where he was often surrounded by women who only valued his wealth. He looks at the luxury items around them, realizing that money alone won't be enough to win Gwen's trust. Arthur touches his chin thoughtfully, determined to find a way to make Gwen accept his care and affection. He recalls advice from Percy, who suggested that women value something much deeper than just expensive material possessions. Back in the present, Arthur watches Gwen closely, his mind racing with ways to bridge the distance between them. Gwen meets his gaze, her expression a mix of curiosity and lingering hesitation as they share a quiet moment. Gwen suggests another destination for their trip, her cheeks flushing as she offers to follow Arthur's lead. Arthur smiles warmly, agreeing to her plan once he finishes paying for Leon's new wardrobe at the counter. While Gwen is distracted, Arthur asks the manager for a dress recommendation that would suit Gwen's delicate features. The manager suggests that Arthur choose the dress himself, believing Gwen would appreciate a gift personally selected by him. Arthur considers the manager's words, his gaze drifting back toward Gwen as he contemplates the perfect gift for her. Blushing slightly, Arthur covers his face, clearly moved by the thought of choosing something special for the woman he loves. Later at a cafe, Arthur informs Gwen that he arranged for the clothes to be delivered to her home. The family shares a peaceful meal outdoors while Leon sleeps soundly in his stroller beside their table. A close-up of Leon shows him dreaming peacefully with a yellow pacifier, looking content in his new surroundings. Gwen looks at Arthur with a soft, appreciative smile, her heart slowly opening to the possibility of their future.
Arthur rests his chin on his hand, his purple eyes fixed on Gwen with an intensity that demands her attention. In a playful and intimate gesture, Arthur feeds Gwen a bite of food, his smile full of quiet charm. Gwen is taken aback by his boldness, flustered but unable to hide the small smile tugging at her lips. A soft wipe sounds as Arthur brushes a crumb from Gwen's face, asking her to share more thoughts. A tender touch follows as Arthur gently cups Gwen's cheek, his gaze filled with unspoken promises and genuine affection. Gwen blushes deeply and agrees to try harder, feeling the weight of the new connection growing between them. Arthur looks away with a slight blush of his own, the emotional intimacy of the moment leaving him breathless. A quiet nom follows as Gwen enjoys her meal, while Arthur asks what's wrong with a concerned look. They continue their walk through the mall, moving toward the next part of their first official family adventure. Leon suddenly wakes up and chirps with excitement, his attention captured by something bright and colorful nearby. A large, friendly mascot named Jolly Bear greets children in the mall, creating a joyful and lively atmosphere. Arthur lifts Leon up high, laughing as the baby tries to reach out and touch the mascot's fuzzy face. Leon is mesmerized by Jolly Bear, reaching out with tiny hands while Gwen watches with a look of pure wonder. Arthur and Leon share a beautiful moment of bonding, their shared purple hair and bright eyes reflecting their connection. Gwen offers to take a photo of Arthur and Leon with the mascot, capturing a precious family memory. Gwen focuses her phone on the pair, her own eyes sparkling with happiness as she counts down for the shot. Arthur holds Leon close and smiles brightly for the camera, the two of them looking like a perfect pair.
Gwen looks at the photo on her screen, a warm, genuine smile spreading across her face at the result.
Arthur asks to see how the picture turned out, his tone light and full of excitement for their shared experience.
A young girl rushes past toward the mascot, her enthusiasm adding to the vibrant, happy energy of the day.
A brown-haired man chases a little girl in a blue star-patterned dress through the mall's food court. Arthur and Gwen bump into Percy, who is shocked to see Arthur carrying a baby of his own. The energetic young girl Fiora introduces herself and excitedly announces it is her 4th birthday. Gwen is immediately captivated by Fiora's charm, while Arthur wonders why he wasn't invited to the girls' party. Arthur explains Leon's existence as Gwen watches, while Percy reacts with visible annoyance to the unexpected news. Arthur suggests they can trust Percy, but the mascot Jolly Bear playfully protests, insisting he is the trustworthy one. A woman with short brown hair looks on from a distance, her expression appearing troubled and deeply thoughtful. Percy introduces his wife Bianca, though she quickly corrects him, clarifying her status as his ex-wife instead. Arthur introduces Gwen as his partner, causing the pink-haired woman to freeze in stunned, wide-eyed silence. Gwen scolds Arthur for his bold claim, while Percy and Bianca share a tense, awkward moment nearby. Bianca looks toward Fiora with a bittersweet gaze, the complex reality of their family dynamic weighing heavily. Gwen remains silent, her profile reflecting the inner conflict of being introduced as Arthur's partner. Gwen politely declines the birthday invitation, suggesting that Fiora's party should remain a private family celebration. A close-up reveals Gwen's pensive expression as she processes the protective warmth of Arthur's hand on her. The two families part ways, exchanging pleasantries, while little Fiora waves a cheerful, enthusiastic goodbye. Percy explains to Bianca that he met Arthur on a cruise, recalling the night everything changed. Bianca teasingly accuses Percy of lying, while he frantically denies that anyone else caught his eye that night. Fiora pouts unhappily as she holds her parents' hands, sensing the lingering tension between the two adults. Fiora demands a promise that they won't fight on her birthday, eliciting a submissive apology from Percy. The family walks away together, with the parents putting aside their differences for the sake of their daughter. Gwen observes that Percy seems like a romance expert, but Arthur notes his friend's struggles with his own life. Arthur explains the co-parenting arrangement while Gwen looks on with a troubled and deeply empathetic expression.
A sepia-toned flashback shows Gwen sweeping, perhaps reflecting on the universal struggles of raising children alone. Gwen's internal desire surfaces as she watches Arthur and Leon, her thoughts drifting toward a stable future.
Arthur leans in close to Gwen, his tender proximity causing her heart to flutter with nervous anticipation. Their faces draw nearer in the soft light, the air thick with an unspoken intimacy that leaves Gwen breathless.
Arthur gazes at Gwen with profound affection, his shimmering purple eyes promising a deeper commitment to her. Arthur suggests taking a family photo, handing Leon over to Gwen, who looks completely caught off guard. Arthur initiates a selfie countdown while Gwen stares into the lens with wide, shocked, and blushing eyes. The captured photo reveals a beautiful family moment, though Gwen fears falling deeper for Arthur than before.
A woman with dark hair watches from the shadows, her mysterious presence casting a slight chill over the scene. Later in the car, Leon sleeps soundly as Gwen quietly reflects on the day's emotional journey. Arthur drives in contemplative silence, his profile illuminated by the passing city lights of the evening.
Gwen looks out the window, her heart heavy with the realization of her deepening feelings for Arthur.
The city buildings are silhouetted against a vibrant sunset, marking the end of their significant first outing.
The white SUV is parked in a garage, signifying their return home after a day of major shifts. Back inside, Gwen notes how quickly babies wake up as the scene transitions to their quiet living room. A vibrant "ba" sounds as Leon wakes up full of energy, looking adorable and ready for his meal.
Gwen heads to the fridge while Arthur watches Leon, noting that the baby's cries mean he is hungry.
Leon looks on with focused intensity as he waits impatiently for his food to finally be ready. The baby happily accepts a spoonful of food, his face lighting up with pure infant delight.
Gwen feeds the baby while Arthur watches with a look of genuine surprise and soft, quiet admiration. Gwen offers Arthur the chance to feed Leon, catching the purple-haired man completely off guard by the offer.
Arthur takes the spoon, his expression brightening with excitement as he prepares to feed his son for once.
Leon stares at the approaching spoon with a blank, unreadable expression, leaving Arthur waiting in silent suspense.
Arthur and Gwen both wonder why Leon has suddenly stopped eating, their expressions turning comical and puzzled.
A low, heavy doom sounds as the awkward silence between the parents and baby suddenly deepens.
Leon looks at the spoon with a giant question mark, clearly confused by the change in server. A sudden high-pitched "aye" sounds as Leon cries out, leading Gwen to realize he isn't used to others. Gwen gently takes over the feeding again, much to the relief of the bewildered and hungry baby. Arthur looks visibly shaken, admitting his deep sense of loneliness after Leon's earlier rejection of his care. Leon happily accepts a spoonful of food, his large purple eyes shining with infant satisfaction and pure joy.
Arthur tenderly pats Leon's head, expressing a heartfelt desire to be involved in his son's daily feeding routine.
Back in the living room, the parents begin discussing their complex schedules to ensure Leon is properly cared for. Gwen mentions Leon's upcoming vaccination, and Arthur eagerly volunteers to join, much to his own excitement. Gwen questions Arthur's work commitments, urging him not to offload his professional responsibilities onto his friend Percy.
A gentle hand strokes the baby's hair against a floral background, symbolizing a growing sense of domestic peace.
Gwen warns Arthur that medical checkups involve a lot of boring waiting, but he remains undeterred by the prospect. Arthur offers a charming, rose-tinted smile, suggesting that time spent with her could never be considered boring. Gwen finds Arthur's flirtatious comment incredibly cheesy, though a playful atmosphere lingers between the two parents. Arthur holds Leon close, noting the baby finished his meal and hoping this marks a breakthrough in their bond.
Gwen looks pensive, suggesting Arthur stay the night to maximize his bonding time with both her and Leon.
Arthur is overjoyed by the invitation, while Gwen reacts with a mix of lingering annoyance and hidden vulnerability. Gwen stands firm, insisting they must finish aligning their weekly schedules despite the emotionally charged atmosphere of the home.
Arthur smiles broadly at Gwen's dedication while she turns away, her expression clouded with complex, shifting emotions.
The scene shifts to the bathroom, where various bottles and toiletries sit neatly organized on corner glass shelves.
Arthur studies his reflection in the mirror, his expression a mix of quiet confidence and deep internal reflection.
Under the shower's spray, Arthur remembers Leon's earlier hesitation, feeling the weight of not being recognized as a father. Gwen enters carrying Leon wrapped in a yellow lion towel, asking if Arthur intends to handle the baby's bath.
Arthur enthusiastically agrees to give Leon a bath, eager for another chance to connect with his young son. Together, they wash the baby in a small blue tub, creating a messy but heartwarming family scene in the bathroom.
Gwen scolds Arthur for his playful behavior, demanding he handle the baby with more care as suds fly everywhere.
Arthur playfully flicks bubbles at Gwen, prompting an indignant shout as she struggles to keep the situation under control.
The pair engages in a light-hearted suds fight, their laughter echoing as they momentarily forget their past tensions.
Leon giggles with pure delight, a crown of white bubbles resting atop his dark purple hair during the bath.
Arthur gazes at Gwen with a soft, affectionate expression, clearly moved by the joy of their shared parenting experience.
Gwen wipes a stray bubble from her face, her eyes reflecting a growing warmth toward the man she once avoided.
Arthur continues to tease Gwen about her reactions, maintaining the playful energy as Leon watches them with curiosity.
A sleepy Leon yawns widely as he is dried and dressed, the day's adventures finally catching up with him.
Gwen cuddles Leon, jokingly worrying about his healthy appetite and whether the doctor will recommend a baby diet.
In a soft moment, Gwen asks Leon if he enjoyed spending the day with his father, receiving a chirp. Arthur stands in a simple white tank top, looking relaxed as he prepares to settle in for the night.
Arthur enters the bedroom while Gwen finishes putting Leon into his crib for a night of peaceful sleep. Gwen is shocked when Arthur boldly flops onto her bed, claiming he is too exhausted to sleep anywhere else.
Arthur hushes Gwen's protests to avoid waking Leon, casually suggesting they continue their schedule discussion from the bed.
Gwen leans over Arthur, grabbing his shirt with a determined look as she demands he take their planning seriously.
Arthur gazes up at Gwen, explaining that his boldness is a necessary step to bridge the distance between them. Arthur lets out a soft, playful groan as Gwen tugs at his clothes, the tension between them turning deeply intimate.
In a comedic exchange, Gwen yells at Arthur to stop his teasing while he laughs off her mock anger.
The atmosphere shifts as Gwen leans closer to Arthur, the moonlight illuminating the unspoken longing in their eyes. Overcome by the intensity of the moment, Gwen leans down and shares a quiet, passionate kiss with Arthur.
Gwen pulls away instantly, her face flushed with shock as she processes her own sudden and bold initiative.
Arthur reaches up and gently kisses Gwen's forehead, his touch promising a tenderness that settles her racing heart.
Arthur steps away toward the door, leaving Gwen sitting on the bed in a daze of lingering romantic tension.
Arthur pauses to check on a sleeping Leon, his silhouette framed by the soft nightlight of the nursery.
Gwen remains on the bed, her hand to her head as she tries to reconcile her growing feelings for Arthur.
Arthur sighs softly, the emotional weight of their shifting relationship evident in the quiet stillness of the room.
A brief memory of their time on the cruise surfaces, showing a smiling Gwen enjoying their first meaningful connection.
A sudden ping sounds as Arthur's phone lights up on the table, breaking the heavy silence of the night.
Arthur looks toward the device with a neutral expression, while Gwen watches him with a look of quiet concern. Gwen rushes back into the room, realizing she forgot her phone, while Arthur watches her with a surprised expression.
Blushing deeply, Gwen offers a soft goodnight as she prepares to retreat to her room for the night. Arthur gazes at her with a tender, affectionate smile, wishing her a good night in return as she leaves.
Back in her own room, Gwen looks at her phone with a mix of anxiety and lingering romantic excitement. She reads a sweet text message from Arthur,
expressing how happy he is to spend time with the family.
A sudden ping sounds as Gwen lies in bed, feeling physically exhausted but mentally reeling from the day's events.
Gwen checks her phone again, the screen's bright light illuminating her wide, pensive eyes in the darkness.
Arthur has sent the family selfie, accompanied by a message about how glad he is they were all together.
Touching the screen, Gwen wonders why Arthur's charm leaves her so flustered despite her attempts to stay distant. She jokingly tries to blame her fluttering heart on Arthur's distracting beauty mark as she tosses and turns. Gwen considers being more honest about her feelings, just as a sudden, soft ping sounds from Arthur's device.
In the other room, Arthur looks at his phone with a surprised and wide-eyed expression at Gwen's late response.
Arthur covers his face as he smiles, a deep blush spreading across his cheeks from Gwen's unexpected honesty. Morning light fills the bedroom as Gwen begins to stir, the events of the previous night still on her mind. Gwen lets out a long, tired yawn, noting that Leon's usual morning cries were surprisingly absent today. She sits up in bed and looks toward the crib, only to realize with confusion that Leon is gone.
A panicked, "Huh?" sounds as Gwen realizes her baby is missing from his usual place in the room.
Little Leon is found happily eating in the kitchen, his tiny hands busy as he snacks on some food. Arthur stands in the kitchen wearing an apron, proudly presenting a plate of food he has prepared for breakfast. Gwen scolds Arthur for taking Leon, but he gently explains he wanted to give her extra time to sleep. Arthur offers a hearty breakfast of fried eggs and sausages, hoping his simple cooking will please her. Gwen's stomach lets out a loud, betraying grumble, forcing her to reluctantly accept the meal he prepared. An older woman with gray hair and glasses watches the pair with a warm and approving maternal smile. The group gathers around the table, Arthur explaining that their new arrangement is all about helping each other out. A heavy, comical doom-gloom settles over Gwen and the older woman as they take their first bites. Arthur is shocked by their reaction as Gwen bluntly informs him that the breakfast he made is too salty. Gwen looks at Arthur with a soft, thoughtful expression, moved by the effort he put into caring for them. Arthur continues his domestic duties in the kitchen, looking relaxed and increasingly comfortable in his role as a father. He offers a confident, handsome smile as he talks, his purple eyes shimmering with a sense of genuine contentment. The family stands together in a soft pink glow, signifying the growing warmth and unity within their household. The scene shifts to the exterior of Medical City, where the family has arrived for Leon's infant checkup. Inside the busy hospital lobby, patients and staff move about as they prepare to register for the appointment. Arthur holds Leon close as they walk through the hospital, Gwen following beside them with a pensive look. Arthur instructs Gareth to ensure Gwen and Leon get home safely after he eventually has to leave for work. At the reception desk, Arthur identifies themselves as being there for his young son's routine medical checkup. Nurses whisper nearby about Arthur's attractive appearance, while Gwen looks on with a mix of annoyance and embarrassment. Arthur remains oblivious to the nurses' comments about his good looks as he focuses entirely on the baby. Gwen corrects the record, reminding Arthur that the baby's legal last name is currently Salameda, not his own. They discuss the paperwork, Arthur firmly expressing his intent to officially recognize Leon as Amarante very soon. Arthur teases Gwen about her own future name change, suggesting she will also be Amarante once they marry. Gwen signs the forms with Arthur's help, the two of them working together as a team for Leon's sake. Gwen rushes to the desk to turn in the paperwork, leaving Arthur to note her visible anxiety to Leon. At the counter, a flustered Gwen asks the receptionist for another form to correct her earlier mistakes. Gwen stands alone for a moment, her expression clouded with uncertainty about Arthur's bold claims of a future together. Arthur sits in the waiting room with Leon, looking content until a sudden announcement catches his attention. Arthur is struck with shock as the intercom calls for Leon Morante, the name he had just been discussing. The older woman and Gareth react with equal surprise as the hospital staff uses Arthur's prestigious family name. A beautiful woman with long purple hair appears amidst flowers, her mysterious smile hinting at a calculated arrival. Arthur sits frozen in the waiting area as the name Leon Morante echoes through the busy hospital hall. The older woman gasps in visible terror as she recognizes the elegant newcomer as the formidable Lady Faye. Nana recalls meeting Lady Faye while packing Artie's things and worries about telling him as the family eats. Nana gazes at Lady Faye's back in fear as Gareth stands silently by the elegant woman. Lady Faye turns with a confident, mysterious smile, her presence looming over the family's current peace. Arthur stands with Gwen and baby Leon, happily announcing it is time for the boys' medical checkup. Little Leon looks up curiously from the examination table as a doctor's hand reaches out to begin the physical. The baby lets out a loud cry while a nurse uses a yellow tape to measure his small head. Arthur leans toward Gwen, playfully telling little Leon that his father is right here to protect him. Leon sticks his tongue out in a funny bleh expression, leaving Arthur and Gwen completely shocked. The medical room fills with joy as Leon lets out a bright giggle, recovered from his earlier distress. Arthur gazes at Gwen with a soft, content expression, sharing a quiet moment of parental pride. The doctor informs the couple that Leon is healthy but slightly overweight, prompting a surprised reaction from them. Gwen looks flustered and embarrassed when the doctor asks if she feeds Leon every time he starts crying. After hearing about the dangers of media, Arthur promises to sing Baby Shark to Leon instead of screens. Arthur jokingly suggests future gym training with Leon, leaving a skeptical Gwen wondering about his fatherly ambitions. Leon stares ahead with wide, innocent eyes as the doctor announces it is now time for his shots. Arthur and Gwen look on in distress as the nurse prepares the vaccine, Gwen comforting her precious baby. The nurse asks Leon to look her way, sensing that a big crying fit is about to begin. Leon lets out a soft, sad sound as tears well up in his eyes right before the injection. Arthur admits he never imagined these parental moments could be so enjoyable while Gwen cradles their crying son. The doctor and nurse bid the family a kind farewell, pleased with Leon's overall health and progress. Standing against a vibrant floral backdrop, Gwen holds the upset Leon while Arthur stays close to them. Gwen encourages the fussy baby to say goodbye to the hospital staff as they prepare to head out. Arthur explains he must leave for work, expressing regret that he cannot escort them back home personally. Arthur gazes at Leon with a soft, affectionate expression, his fatherly bond with the boy clearly growing deeper. Gwen and Arthur lock eyes in a quiet moment of romantic tension, the connection between them visibly intensifying. Arthur offers Gwen a tender, lingering look, his handsome features highlighted by the hospital's soft interior lights. The pair stands inches apart, the air thick with unspoken feelings as Arthur prepares to say goodbye. Arthur reaches out and touches Gwen's forehead in a silent gesture of care, leaving her heart racing with excitement. Gwen blushes deeply, her eyes reflecting her confusion and growing attraction as she watches him walk away. Gwen approaches Nana and Gareth in the lobby, noticing Nana's sudden and visible state of nervous agitation. Nana watches Arthur's departure with a look of extreme worry, clearly troubled by the secret she's keeping. Gwen mentions her desire to buy a thank you gift for Arthur, and Gareth happily offers to assist her. Gareth and Gwen discuss their next steps while little Leon rests quietly in his mother's arms. Arthur says a final goodbye, Gwen blushing as she wishes him a safe and successful day at work. Nana and Gareth prepare to leave the hospital lobby, Nana still struggling with whether to reveal Faye's arrival. A vroom sounds as the car speeds down the road, carrying the group toward their gift shopping mission. Inside the vehicle, Nana suggests a practical gift as Gwen contemplates Arthur's likely expensive and luxurious tastes. Gwen wanders through a high-end store, feeling overwhelmed by the steep prices of the luxury items on display. Nana encourages Gwen to keep looking and not get discouraged by the expensive price tags around them. Gwen reflects on how much her feelings for Arthur have shifted from her initial annoyance and frustration. Gareth pushes the stroller through the store, while Gwen remains lost in a swirl of complicated personal thoughts. Gwen remembers when Arthur first arrived with a threatening lawyer, a sharp contrast to his current gentle behavior. Gwen recalls her past fear of Arthur's immense power and resources, which once made her feel completely helpless. Watching Nana and Gareth laugh together, Gwen begins to wonder if hiring her own legal defense is necessary. A small, genuine smile touches Gwen's face as she reevaluates her relationship with Leon's powerful father. Leon sleeps soundly with a golden pacifier, as Gwen decides it is still too early to be sure. Gwen thinks about her past lack of effort to truly understand Arthur beyond his intimidating public persona. Gareth suggests a gift for Arthur's hair, prompting a look of realization from Gwen and the older woman. Gwen holds a small, blue, gift-wrapped box with a white bow, a satisfied smile on her lips. Gwen offers a warm, joyful smile as she thanks Nana and Gareth for helping her find the gift. Gwen walks alongside the group, her heart warming as she admits she is finally having fun again. Gwen's eyes sparkle with gratitude, crediting Arthur and his circle for the newfound happiness in her life. Standing before the towering Mega Development Corp building, Gwen silently wonders if this peaceful stability will truly last. The scene shifts inside to a sleek, modern office, the afternoon light filtering through the window's horizontal blinds. Arthur returns to his office to find Lady Faye waiting, her sharp eyes noting his busy day elsewhere. Faye lounges elegantly on the leather sofa, her knowing smile suggesting she is well aware of Arthur's recent activities. Arthur meets her gaze with a stoic, somewhat annoyed expression, clearly unamused by his sister's unexpected and prying presence. Outside, the sun continues to shine over the corporate headquarters, the calm exterior masking the internal family tensions. Wah! Faye comically scolds Arthur, complaining about his recent work absences, while he remains unmoved by her energetic outburst. Faye reveals she already knows his secret, having spotted him shopping with an unknown woman earlier that day. Faye excitedly explains how she realized the baby is Arthur's literal twin before tracking them down to their home. Faye playfully teases her brother about his lucky lady, while Arthur bluntly tells her to mind her own business. They discuss keeping the situation secret from their aunt, both agreeing she is the last person who should know. Arthur settles into his chair, looking contemplative as Faye continues to needle him about his sudden domestic turn. Faye reflects on Arthur's intense focus on the company since their father's death, mentioning a past flame named Elaine. A momentary silence falls as the mention of Elaine lingers, though Arthur quickly dismisses the topic with quiet resolve. Faye asks when their mother will be informed, while Arthur explains he needs to finalize a few things first. Arthur recalls a past medical consultation, realizing he still hasn't told Gwen about his own health condition. He imagines holding baby Leon amidst a bed of flowers, hoping to soon explain the boy's true personal significance. Despite his growing affection, Arthur fears being emotionally crushed again, his gaze fixed on a distant, painful memory. Faye accurately guesses that Gwen currently hates him, her bluntness hitting a sensitive nerve for the powerful CEO. A comical arrow pierces Arthur's pride as Faye's bullseye comment confirms his difficult standing with the woman he loves. Faye leans in with a mischievous grin, clearly enjoying her brother's rare moment of romantic vulnerability and struggle. Eager for gossip, Faye insists Arthur tell her everything, promising her full support in his complicated pursuit of Gwen. Back at the mall, Gwen clutches the gift she bought, her expression soft as she thinks of Arthur. Nana notices Gwen's nervous anticipation, playfully wondering how Artie will react to receiving such a thoughtful, personal gift. Gwen imagines a radiant Arthur thanking her with a dazzling smile, her heart fluttering at the mere thought. Determination fills Gwen's eyes as she hopes her simple present will be enough to show her genuine appreciation. Ring! A sudden phone call interrupts their shopping trip as Gwen's phone vibrates, signaling a call from Arthur himself. Gwen finishes her brief call, informing Nana and Gareth that Arthur plans to visit them again later that day. Gwen holds both her phone and the gift tightly, a mix of anxiety and excitement coloring her blushing face.
Gwen flusteredly defends her gift as a simple favor return, while Nana inwardly celebrates Arthur's visible progress. In his office, Arthur looks at his phone in surprise, amazed that Gwen actually agreed to see him again.
Faye bursts into celebratory cheers, already eager to officially meet her sister-in-law, despite Arthur's embarrassed and skeptical look.
Putting on his suit jacket, Arthur wonders if Gwen will ever actually accept being called by such a title. Faye brags about her marital experience, while Arthur reminds her they must handle pressing business matters first. The pair enters a formal meeting room, Arthur greeting his aunt, while Faye follows with a playful wave.
Their stern-looking aunt acknowledges their arrival, noting with dry sarcasm that it is a miracle Arthur is actually on time.
Arthur briefly consults with his attorney, mentioning the need for a private follow-up conversation later regarding legal matters.
Arthur introduces the sellers, Mr. and Mrs. Cruz, as the group prepares to finalize an important corporate agreement.
Faye performs a respectful mano gesture for their aunt, who expresses satisfaction that the deal is proceeding smoothly.
Mrs. Cruz offers a polite greeting, but Arthur watches the couple with a sharp, calculating, and somewhat suspicious gaze.
The various parties gather around a large conference table, the atmosphere thick with the weight of the impending transaction. Arthur notes that the deal requires one final signature from Mrs. Cruz's sister, inquiring about when she will arrive. Arthur recalls a tense memory of the Cruz couple, his thoughts dwelling on the hidden connections behind the deal. Arthur confirms the identity of the missing sister, realizing she is actually Mrs. Cruz's estranged half-sibling. Gwen's expression turns somber as she reveals to herself that the woman from Arthur's meeting is her half-sister.
Arthur focuses on the contract in his hands, unaware of the deep personal history Gwen shares with the sellers.
Gwen remembers the cold reception she received from her relatives after her father died, feeling unwelcome and rejected. Mrs. Cruz wears a chilling, malicious smirk, hinting at her true motives and the friction awaiting the unsuspecting Gwen.
Sunset colors the sky as Nana and Gareth prepare to leave, offering their help if needed.
Nana tells Gwen to take care, the elderly woman smiling warmly before departing the cozy apartment.
Gwen praises little Leon for his bravery today, asking if he enjoyed his doctor visit with Arthur.
Holding her son close, Gwen whispers that their happy day out is a special secret for now. A content smile graces Gwen's face as she holds her sleeping child in the quiet evening light. Gwen gazes lovingly at Leon, her heart full of affection for the boy resting in her arms. At Mega Development Corp., Arthur brusquely concludes a meeting, eager to move the project forward without delay.
Arthur confronts the sellers with a cold revelation, stating that legal experts confirm they do not own the land.
Arthur stands tall and commanding, his sharp intellect and authority leaving no room for the seller's excuses.
A fierce, intimidating glare settles on Arthur's face as he exposes the couple's dishonest attempts to control the deal. Mr. Cruz looks on in terror, calling out to his wife as their legal deception falls apart completely.
Arthur stares down the red-haired Mrs. Cruz, his silent judgment radiating through the tense, air-conditioned room.
Mrs. Cruz avoids Arthur's piercing gaze, sweating nervously as her malicious plans face a sudden, powerful obstacle. Without another word, Arthur turns and exits the boardroom, leaving the defeated couple in his wake. Suddenly, Mrs. Cruz bursts into mocking laughter, ridiculing Arthur's intelligence despite her husband's shock and confusion. Arthur and Faye walk together through the building, the CEO looking pensive while his energetic sister follows closely. A chilling, malicious smirk crosses Mrs. Cruz's face as she contemplates sparking a public scandal to get revenge. A memory surfaces of young Gwen asking her father if she was truly an abandoned, illegitimate child. Her father reacted with immediate shock, demanding to know who spread such cruel lies about her parentage.
He pulled Gwen into a protective embrace, fiercely promising that she would always be his beloved daughter. The small girl wept against his shoulder as he vowed never to leave her side or abandon her.
He lovingly patted her head,
expressing a final wish that she would find someone to love her forever. The memory fades as the echo of Gwen's childhood cries for her father lingers in the empty room. Gwen sleeps restlessly on the sofa, her hand twitching as she dreams of her father's broken promises.
Arthur gazes down at her with a look of intense, quiet tenderness, his stoic mask finally slipping away.
Arthur leans in and asks why she is sleeping there, his voice startling Gwen from her deep slumber.
Wah! Gwen jolts upright in shock, finding Arthur kneeling beside her while baby Leon sleeps nearby.
Stunned and wide-eyed, Gwen stares at the handsome man before her, struggling to shake off her lingering dream. Faye introduces herself with a vibrant, flowery background, her striking beauty reminding Gwen of a female Arthur. Faye enthusiastically grasps Gwen's hands, asking if she can call her sister-in-law, to Gwen's absolute shock. Faye's eyes sparkle with joy as she spots her tiny nephew, Leon, sleeping soundly in his bed.
Arthur scolds Faye for being loud, while she playfully defends her skills as a mother of several children.
Arthur apologizes for Faye's intrusion, explaining that she insisted on a proper introduction despite his reservations. Flustered, Gwen rushes toward the kitchen, promising to prepare dinner for her unexpected but high-status guests. As evening falls over the city, Arthur follows Gwen into the kitchen to check on her progress. Arthur notes that Gwen looks tired, his hand hovering near her face in a gesture of concern. Gwen becomes extremely flustered when Arthur asks if she cooked all this just because he was coming over. Arthur offers a questioning look, his curiosity piqued by Gwen's frantic and blushing behavior in the kitchen.
Gwen stammers an excuse about Nana's advice, her face turning bright red under Arthur's steady, observant gaze.
Arthur rewards her efforts with a dazzling, flowery smile, thanking her for the delicious meal she prepared.
During dinner, Faye praises Gwen's cooking skills, even offering to learn a few recipes from her. Faye comically hugs Gwen, declaring her so kind and sweet that she wants Gwen for herself instead. Gwen reflects on her past fears of Arthur's wealthy family being like the cold villains in television dramas.
A feeling of relief washes over Gwen as she realizes Faye is warm, welcoming, and nothing like her fears. Arthur and Faye share a sibling moment at the table, their dynamic far more relatable than Gwen expected.
Gwen's gaze drops to her floral dress, her thoughts turning inward as the evening's events sink in.
A sepia-toned montage of the neighborhood appears as Gwen remembers her humble life before meeting Arthur's family. Gwen looks on with a calm, neutral expression, processing the massive changes occurring in her personal life. Confusion and anxiety return to Gwen's face as she tries to navigate this strange new family dynamic. The group gathers around the table for dinner, the evening ending on a surprisingly domestic and peaceful note. Faye suggests it is a perfect time to introduce Leon to the family, while Gwen watches the baby eat.
Gwen trembles with anxiety, terrified that Arthur's high-status family might never truly accept her and her child.
Arthur looks skeptical as Faye points out his lack of romantic progress with the pink-haired woman he loves.
Faye scolds her brother, calling him immature for using legal threats to scare a lady away from him.
Arthur defends his awkward approach, admitting he just wants to give Gwen time to trust him more deeply.
Faye lists the reasons they are meant to be together, though Arthur insists their attraction remains unconfirmed. Encouraged by Faye to propose soon, Arthur sinks into quiet, heavy contemplation about the complexity of his feelings. Arthur stares off with a pensive expression, his stoic resolve masking a deep sense of uncertainty and internal struggle.
A warm memory surfaces of Arthur's insecurity about his sterility and his desperate hope for Gwen's total acceptance.
Gwen looks on with a soft, blushing face, her heart heavy with the weight of Arthur's unspoken past.
Arthur apologizes for his sister's chaotic energy while Gwen focuses on washing the dishes in the kitchen sink.
Faye cheerfully explores the apartment, holding baby Leon and admiring the nursery with a wide, happy smile. Arthur expresses his genuine happiness and surprise that Gwen agreed to meet his mother and other family members. Gwen offers a gentle, determined smile, explaining that her decision is purely for little Leon's well-being and future. Arthur gazes at her with a longing, emotional look,
clearly moved by her selfless dedication to their son.
Arthur pulls Gwen into a tender, flower-framed embrace, his heart finally opening up to her quiet warmth.
Gwen reaffirms her commitment to Leon's future, her calm smile hiding the nervous flutter in her heart.
Arthur gazes down at Gwen with intense affection, his stoic mask completely forgotten in their shared, intimate closeness.
Faye excitedly offers to babysit Leon for the night, wanting the couple to have some romantic privacy together.
Arthur and Gwen are left standing in a flustered, blushing daze after Faye's sudden and mischievous exit.
Sensing the tension, Arthur suggests they meet later to discuss their complicated situation in a more private setting. In the bedroom, Faye thanks Gwen for the chance to talk while they relax in their cozy pajamas. Faye asks Gwen about her first impression, hoping her vibrant personality wasn't seen as rude or annoying.
Zzz. Little Leon sleeps peacefully as Faye expresses her sincere hope that she and Gwen become close friends. Gwen looks away pensively as Faye admits her deep-seated worries regarding her brother's recurring emotional struggles.
Faye explains that Arthur is incredibly slow at romance, leaving Gwen to process this surprising new personal information. A memory of Arthur's cold, sad profile appears as Faye reflects on his lonely life before meeting Gwen. Faye notes that Arthur has never looked as genuinely happy as he does when he is with Gwen. Gwen asks if Arthur had a troubled past, curious about the emo phase Faye's comments seem to imply.
Arthur's melancholy gaze in the sunset lingers in Gwen's mind as she recalls their first meeting's hidden sadness.
Faye's expression turns somber as she shares more intimate details about Arthur's difficult and lonely family history. Faye drops a shocking revelation, mentioning Arthur's lingering guilt over a fiancé who once abandoned him. Gwen stares in absolute shock, her eyes wide as she learns about the secret pain Arthur carries inside. Wah! Faye bursts into tears and pulls Gwen into a tight, sobbing hug for her brother's sake. Stunned and wide-eyed, Gwen is left speechless by Faye's emotional outburst and the heavy family secrets revealed. In a nearby room, Arthur prepares to change clothes, relieved that he has some belongings kept there. Arthur looks confused as he wonders why Gwen specifically requested to talk in this private, quiet bedroom. Faye continues her tearful rant, determined to give Arthur a piece of her mind for his cold behavior. A look of vibrant determination fills Faye's face as she cheers Gwen on for the night ahead. Gwen offers a small, understanding smile, touched by the fierce bond between Arthur and his protective sister. Gwen walks toward the door with purpose, her mind racing with the serious conversation she must now have. Holding her gift and her resolve, Gwen prepares herself to finally define their relationship once and for all. Gwen bursts into the room and freezes in shock, finding a shirtless Arthur in the middle of changing. Bam! Arthur falls back against the wardrobe in a panic, his face flushing deep red from extreme embarrassment. Gwen apologizes while sitting on the bed, her face bright red under Arthur's flustered and shirtless gaze. Now wearing a black tank top, Arthur sits before Gwen and promises to guide her through everything. Arthur's gaze is heavy with sincerity as he vows to be there for her when the time comes.
Gwen looks at the floor, her expression somber as she prepares to voice her most difficult, lingering questions.
Gwen confronts Arthur about their confusing history, struggling to understand why he is so insistent on marriage now. The pair sits facing each other in the quiet room, the heavy weight of their future hanging between them. Arthur gazes at Gwen with a look of profound sincerity, his vulnerability showing through his softened expression. Gwen returns his gaze, her eyes wide with a mixture of wonder and burgeoning affection for the man. The atmosphere thickens as Arthur and Gwen lean toward each other, the space between them narrowing with tension. Arthur confesses that his unusual behavior is solely because of his feelings for her, leaving Gwen breathless and stunned. He brushes his face against hers in a gentle, intimate gesture, his presence overwhelming her senses and making her blush. Their faces are inches apart as the world around them fades, the intensity of the moment nearly leading to a kiss.
A heavy sigh escapes Arthur as he pulls back, while Gwen remains frozen in wide-eyed shock from their close encounter.
Arthur offers a small, quiet smile, the weight of his earlier tension seemingly lifting as he looks at her.
Gwen watches him with a somber expression, her heart heavy with the complex emotions and secrets shared between them.
Arthur's gaze remains focused on her, his expression a mixture of fatigue and a deep, underlying desire for her understanding.
He pulls Gwen into a soft, protective embrace, seeking comfort in her presence after their emotionally draining conversation.
Arthur admits he hates the thought of her being angry with him, holding her close to reaffirm their connection.
Over his shoulder, Gwen mentions her meeting with lawyers, her face clouded by the seriousness of their legal situation. They part slightly as the gravity of the legal discussion settles over them, both appearing pensive and deeply concerned.
Arthur explains his own legal team's advice to reach an agreement, surprising Gwen with his willingness to find common ground. Arthur collapses onto the bed with a sigh of relief, admitting he feared their talk would end in a fight.
Lying on the bed, Arthur looks up at Gwen with a relaxed, affectionate gaze, his previous anxieties momentarily forgotten.
Gwen notices a small blue pouch on the bed and asks about it, her curiosity piqued by the unexpected item.
Gwen presents the gift to a surprised Arthur, her shy expression revealing the care she put into the gesture. A cute, lion-shaped keychain is revealed in her palm, a playful ta-da, marking the lighthearted moment.
Arthur smiles warmly at the charming gift, finding the small lion keychain absolutely adorable and deeply touching.
Arthur playfully insists that Gwen put the charm on him herself, his request filled with a flirtatious and lighthearted energy.
Gwen carefully attaches the lion charm to Arthur's hair, her concentration visible as she fulfills his whimsical request.
Arthur looks delighted with the charm, silently hoping he can express his true feelings for her more openly one day.
Gwen's heart beats wildly as she recalls his charm, a sudden badum echoing her internal reaction to his closeness.
Gwen hesitantly asks about his dating history, feeling a twinge of insecurity after remembering him being surrounded by women.
Arthur struggles to answer, realizing that whether he says many or none, Gwen might react with frustration or disbelief. He feels caught in a catch-22, certain that any answer about his past will lead to the same complicated result.
Gwen quickly backtracks, telling him to forget the question to avoid putting unnecessary pressure on their already complex bond.
Arthur honestly admits he has dated before, but reaffirms that his current priority is Gwen and their son, Leon. His eyes are heavy with sincerity as he looks at her, ensuring she understands his commitment is real and heartfelt.
Gwen's heart skips a beat again, her face flushed as she processes his earnest words and steady, loving gaze.
Arthur notes it is getting late and prepares to leave, causing Gwen to feel a sudden pang of disappointment. As they say goodnight, Gwen realizes she is becoming genuinely happy in his presence, a feeling she tries to hide. A quick tap sounds as Arthur places his hand near the door, momentarily stopping Gwen as she tries to leave. Gwen looks back at him with surprise, her heart racing at his sudden and assertive move near the doorway. Arthur gazes down at her with an unreadable but intense expression, the air between them thick with unspoken words.
In a sudden, passionate moment, Arthur pulls Gwen close and kisses her, finally acting on their long simmering mutual attraction. A loud "wah!" interrupts them as chibi-styled Gwen and Arthur are startled by baby Leon's sudden, piercing cries.
Gwen is instantly flustered, her romantic days vanishing as she realizes her son needs her attention right away.
Faye's voice calls out with a look of absolute panic, declaring an emergency that immediately heightens the household tension.
Little Leon weeps loudly in his crib, a hand reaching out to soothe him amidst the sudden nocturnal chaos. Arthur and Gwen remain frozen in their close proximity, both wide-eyed and stunned by the abrupt end to their moment. A gentle hand pats the back of the sleeping baby, trying to settle him back into a peaceful slumber.
Leon continues to cry out with a distressed wah, his tiny face red from the sudden and unexpected awakening. Faye looks horrified, worrying aloud if she was the one who accidentally woke the baby from his deep sleep. The crying baby creates a comical, chaotic background as the chibi couple remains paralyzed by the sudden interruption. Gwen hurriedly tells Arthur she must check on Leon and Faye, while he offers a dazed and stammering agreement. Flustered and blushing furiously, Gwen rushes out of the room, leaving a stunned Arthur standing alone in the silence. Arthur is left breathless and deeply blushing, his hand to his mouth as he processes their interrupted, passionate kiss. Little Leon cries out with a distressed wah as a hand gently checks his forehead for a fever. Arthur informs Gwen that Faye is consulting a specialist, while Gwen holds the weeping baby in her arms. Arthur and Gwen monitor Leon's rising fever with deep concern, while Faye stays busy on the phone nearby. Arthur gently touches Gwen's cheek, offering her a look of deep sincerity and comfort during the stressful night. He continues to soothe Gwen as she looks on worriedly, the weight of Leon's illness heavy on them. The pair discusses if Leon's distress stems from a recent vaccine shot while standing near a giraffe-themed height chart. Faye, wearing lemon-patterned pajamas, takes over holding Leon and suggests they keep trying to cool his fever down. Leon is carefully given liquid medicine, as Arthur notes that babies his age are particularly prone to getting sick. Gwen covers her face in prayerful worry, while Arthur insists they must monitor the baby's temperature every 4 hours. Faye hands Arthur a list of supplies and tells him to hurry to the nearest drugstore for more medicine. Arthur rushes out of the room with a look of frantic determination, desperate to help his suffering son. He sprints through the nighttime city streets, his heart racing as he navigates through the crowds of people. Arthur slams the list onto the pharmacy counter, silently wondering how he would cope without Faye's constant support. He asks the pharmacist for the items, worried about the future when Faye might not be around to help. A somber profile of Arthur reveals his internal struggle as he waits for the medicine to be prepared. A sudden, loud ring sounds from Arthur's phone, catching his attention while he stands among the pharmacy shelves. Back at home, a serene Faye holds the now quiet Leon, her expression peaceful as Gwen watches from the side. Gwen wipes a stray tear from her eye, her face softening with a mixture of relief and deep gratitude. She gazes at Faye and the baby, her heart touched by the woman's natural and caring maternal instincts. Faye admits she is running away from a fight with her husband, reflecting on her childhood spent caregiving. She reaffirms that her invitation for Gwen to meet their mother was sincere, despite her own personal family drama. Gwen offers a warm, radiant smile, telling Faye that she is always welcome to stop by their home. Faye laughs joyfully as Gwen expresses her sincere hope that the woman and her husband can reconcile soon. Arthur bursts back into the room with the medicine, startling the flustered Gwen while Faye remains calm nearby. He checks his phone and informs Faye that her husband called, asking if she was hiding out there. Faye reacts with frantic annoyance, demanding to know why her husband would call Arthur's phone of all people. Arthur and Gwen sit together with the sleeping baby, relieved that Leon's condition finally seems to be improving. Gwen expresses her deep gratitude to Arthur, admitting she let her earlier anxiety and panic get the best of her. Arthur listens with a heavy, focused gaze, his silence speaking volumes about his own lingering emotions for her. A sudden ahem from Gwen breaks the silence as she tries to clear the awkward tension between them. She looks at Arthur with a mixture of curiosity and shyness as he continues to hold the baby. Their eyes meet in the quiet room, the unspoken memories of their interrupted kiss hanging heavily in the air. Arthur asks Gwen what specifically made her change her mind about meeting his family after her initial hesitation. She explains that she simply wanted to return the kindness he showed by inviting her into his life. Gwen looks down somberly, reflecting on how much Faye has helped her navigate the challenges of the past years. A faded memory of two people in a dimly lit room highlights the complicated family history they share.
Arthur decides he should bring Faye a gift as thanks, holding Leon close as they discuss his sister. He offers Gwen a small, affectionate smile, the earlier tension replaced by a moment of genuine, quiet warmth.
As they discuss gifts, Leon suddenly awakens with a piercing "wah" that leaves the couple startled and wide-eyed. In another room, a sobbing Faye video chats with her husband, while Arthur peeks in on the emotional scene.
A sudden sneeze from the baby catches them off guard just as they realize Faye's situation is resolved.
Leon continues to cry out with a loud "ooh-ah," leaving the chibi couple looking completely exhausted and overwhelmed. Gwen brings fresh towels for Arthur, walking into the room as he sits with the fussy, tired baby. A soft goo escapes Leon's lips as he finally begins to settle down while drinking from his bottle. Arthur feeds the baby with a gentle hand, admitting that caring for infants is a steep learning curve.
A quiet "moi" sounds as Arthur kisses Leon's cheek, his face full of fatherly love and newfound tenderness.
Arthur looks up with a soft, dreamy expression, his heart full as he holds his sleeping son close. Gwen asks if something is wrong, and Arthur sheepishly admits he just got a bit lost in the moment. They sit together on the bed, the atmosphere shifting as Arthur suddenly brings up the kiss they shared earlier. Arthur's gaze is heavy with meaning as he looks at Gwen, waiting for her reaction to his bold reminder. Gwen looks away thoughtfully, her hand partially covering her face as she processes the lingering weight of their earlier interaction. Arthur stands over Leon's crib, suggesting they both rest now that the baby has finally settled into a quiet sleep. Arthur turns off the lamp with a soft tap, mentioning he must stay here because Faye is using his room. Lounging comfortably on the bed, Arthur offers Gwen a smoldering look and invites her to come closer to him. With a quick whip, Arthur pulls a startled Gwen onto the bed and settles her under the covers beside him. Arthur laughs as Gwen playfully warns him against any funny business while they share the same bed for the night. Chibi Gwen feels overwhelmed by the silence, silently pleading for Leon to cry and break the sudden, heavy romantic tension. Arthur notes how quickly time passes when they are alone together, while Gwen clutches the blankets with a nervous expression. He gazes at her with deep affection, his expression softening as he treasures this rare, quiet moment of intimacy. Arthur's face is flushed with a gentle warmth as he looks at Gwen, his sincerity radiating through his steady gaze. Arthur reaffirms how precious Gwen and Leon are to him while she reflects on his voice in the dark room. Turning away with an awkward ahem, Arthur listens as Gwen expresses her excitement about finally meeting his mother, Carol. Gwen leans her head against Arthur's back, finding comfort in the solid presence and heart-wrenching sincerity of his words. She gazes at him with a soft, vulnerable expression, her heart opening further as she reflects on their deepening bond.
The morning sun shines on the apartment building as Faye discovers Nana holding a happy, recovered Leon in her arms.
Arthur prepares to leave, urging Faye to head home and reconcile with her husband after her stressful night away. Arthur hands Gwen a shopping bag with a gentle smile, thanking her for everything as they prepare for the day. Chibi Faye reacts with shocked disbelief while Gwen announces she needs to start getting ready for her own busy day. Arthur asks about her plans to meet her friend Carol, requesting to be kept informed if their schedules happen to align. Arthur and Gwen walk through the kitchen together, the atmosphere between them filled with a quiet, domestic sense of ease. Arthur looks lost in thought, his handsome profile showing a hint of melancholy as he reflects on their complicated situation. A soft chew sounds as Arthur leans down to plant a tender kiss on Gwen's forehead, amidst a flowery background. Arthur offers Gwen a charming, radiant smile, his eyes sparkling with a renewed sense of hope and genuine affection. Arthur playfully declares his approval, while a flustered Gwen reacts with shock to his bold reminder of the previous night. A sudden badoom echoes in Gwen's heart as she stands frozen, her face flushed from the intensity of his words. Gwen meets the green-haired Carol, who warmly welcomes her with a tight hug and calls her sister-in-law with joy. Little Leon lets out a soft sniff as a gentle hand wipes his nose, ensuring he remains comfortable and well-tended.
Gwen prepares to depart, asking Nana to keep her updated on Leon's condition while she goes to meet with Carol. A quick ding-dong sounds as Gwen arrives at Carol's home, being greeted with a warm reminder that they're family. Carol beams with a bright, welcoming smile, her green eyes sparkling with genuine happiness at Gwen's arrival for their visit. Carol invites Gwen inside with a cheerful "come in," leading her into the stylishly decorated and cozy apartment. Gwen looks serious as she admits she wants Carol to meet Arthur, finally bridging the gap between her two worlds. Carol reacts with a stunned and wide-eyed expression, clearly caught off guard by Gwen's unexpected proposal to meet Arthur. Gwen explains her reasoning with a mixture of nervousness and determination, hoping Carol understands the importance of this step. The scene shifts to a quiet corner of the living room, setting the stage for a long overdue conversation. A delicious spread of pizza, chips, and snacks sits on the table, ready for the two women to share. Gwen eyes the massive amount of food, while Carol cheekily insists that they are going to finish it all together. Munching on a chip, Carol tells Gwen that she has plenty of explaining to do regarding her recent life changes. Gwen looks down bashfully, confessing that she was the one who first suggested the idea of Arthur meeting Carol. Gwen explains that Carol is the only person she truly considers family, making her opinion on Arthur matter the most. Gwen reflects on Arthur's constant support, remembering all the times he has gone above and beyond for her and Leon. Looking at the snacks, Gwen admits that Arthur's immense effort makes her want to try just as hard for him. Gwen expresses her cautious hope that by putting in the work, things might finally work out for them this time. Carol listens in silence, her expression unreadable as she processes the depth of Gwen's feelings and the sincerity of her words. Carol observes that Gwen's selfless nature is the core of her love, always putting others' needs before her own happiness. She expresses her relief that Gwen is finally speaking up for what she wants, instead of just enduring her struggles. The two women sit together in a moment of quiet understanding, the bond between them strengthened by Gwen's honest confession. Carol admits she once felt Gwen needed protection, but now realizes Gwen is strong enough to handle her own heart. Carol suddenly freezes in shock, frantically questioning what Gwen meant by Arthur stopping by her place every time. Gwen blushes furiously, her face turning bright red as she realizes she may have revealed more than she intended. Gwen hides her blushing face behind her hands, struggling to explain Arthur's frequent visits. Flashbacks reveal Arthur's constant reliability and affection, showing how he remained steady despite Gwen's cold behavior. Gwen reflects on how Arthur takes her anxieties and Leon's welfare seriously despite his carefree personality. Carol breaks into a loud ha of laughter, playfully teasing Gwen about Leon's father. Gwen covers her burning face in embarrassment while Carol continues to enjoy her friend's flustered reaction. Gwen looks down with a somber and thoughtful expression, processing the complex emotions she still harbors. Carol offers a protective warning, vowing to step in if Arthur ever makes Gwen upset again. The two women sit together on the sofa, eating snacks and sharing a moment of quiet camaraderie. A memory of two students shows a past where someone chose a career path over Gwen's feelings. Gwen reflects on the deep sadness and abandonment she felt during that difficult day in the past. Sitting alone on the couch, Gwen wonders if the anger she felt was truly justified back then. Gwen expresses her sincere desire to apologize to Arthur for how she disrupted his life and plans. The camera pans out to show Gwen and Carol relaxing in the living room, surrounded by food. A close-up shows a delicious spread of crackers, chips, and snacks ready for the two women. Carol asks if Arthur knows about her family situation, while Gwen admits it was bound to happen. A flashback shows Gwen's sister Camilla and her husband appearing unexpectedly at Arthur's busy office. Carol reacts with fierce indignation, questioning why Camilla would show up at Arthur's workplace of all places. Gwen recalls how Arthur stood his ground and protected her from Camilla's persistent pettiness and judgment. A sudden ring echoes through the room as Gwen's phone receives a video call from A.
Both Gwen and Carol look completely caught off guard by the sudden and loud ringing of the phone. A man with dark hair appears on the video screen, looking calm as the call connects. Gwen and Carol are startled to see a man named Percy on the screen instead of Arthur.
Arthur suddenly appears on the screen, laughing as he explains the camera was flipped before greeting Carol.
Gwen introduces Carol as her best friend, while Arthur introduces himself as Leon's father with a smile. Arthur expresses his genuine happiness about finally getting the chance to meet someone so important to Gwen.
A quick ding-dong sounds at the door, prompting Carol to get up and check the arrival. Percy cries out in the background of the call, complaining about being forbidden from eating his lunch.
Gwen giggles at Arthur's childish behavior while Carol heads toward the door as it rings once more. Gwen stares at her phone with a soft, moved expression after Arthur admits he just wanted to see her. Arthur offers Gwen an incredibly tender and affectionate look through the video screen, his eyes full of warmth. Arthur says goodbye with a promise to call back later as Gwen softly acknowledges his departure. Gwen clutches the phone to her chest with a happy blush, trying to keep her fluttering heart together. A sudden shout of "Gwen!" startles her, her eyes widening in shock as she looks toward the door. The red-haired Lance stands in the room wearing glasses and a plaid shirt, looking quite serious. A hand slams a thick stack of papers down with a loud "ta-da" while searching for Lance. At the LG law office, a receptionist informs a man that Sir Gale is taking time off. The blonde man looks thoughtful, pondering why Arthur would suddenly be absent from work this morning. Carol welcomes Lance into the apartment with a friendly greeting, noting that Gwen has already arrived. Gwen looks up with a soft, relieved expression as she prepares to discuss her matters with Lance. Gwen is startled once again when she hears her name called out loudly, her face full of shock. A fresh pizza sits on the table as Carol apologizes for the short notice to the newly arrived guest. Lance joins them in the living room, sitting down to discuss Gwen's upcoming legal case. Gwen looks nervous and hesitant as she begins to explain the details of her case to Lance. Lance looks at her with a steady gaze, asking if she has finally made her final decision. Lance admits he had a hunch about her decision as they sit across from each other in the room. Lance offers a small, knowing smile, showing his willingness to support Gwen through the legal process. Gwen looks at Lance with a mixture of shyness and resolve, ready to move forward. They share a moment of quiet, professional understanding as Gwen prepares to sign the necessary documents. Lance reveals that Arthur's attorney is actually his own mentor, leaving Gwen in a state of shock. Chibi Carol excitedly insists that Gwen must demand monthly child support as part of the legal agreement. Gwen reflects on the heavy burden of her legal dispute, admitting she was once too scared to mention it. Back in the cozy apartment, Carol smiles while the red-haired Lance prepares his notebook to discuss the case. Lance offers Gwen a steady, encouraging gaze, showing his professional commitment to supporting her through the legal process. As Carol laughs nearby, Lance sits ready with his pen, beginning to share a story about his past.
A flashback begins with Lance recalling a time when he didn't care about school or forming project groups.
After class is dismissed in the rain, students gossip maliciously about a new transfer student named Tanaka.
Young Lance, known then as Tanaka, stares ahead with a hardened expression, ignoring the cruel whispers behind him. A sudden, quick tap-tap of footsteps echoes as young Gwen chases after him down the school hallway. Gwen tries to recruit him for her group, despite him believing that no one wants to talk to him. She offers him a bright, welcoming smile, insisting they will find a way to make the group work. He bluntly refuses her offer, but Gwen remains undeterred, even as he tries to walk away from her. Standing at the school entrance, young Lance grumbles about the bad timing of the rainy season starting. Gwen and Carol ambush him with a large umbrella, dragging him along to a convenience store for their project. Back in the present, Gwen's phone sounds with a sharp ring as she realizes she must head home. The group shares their final goodbyes as the chibi icons of Carol and Lance depart into the background.
Night falls over the city skyline while Lance offers to walk Gwen home despite her polite refusal. Lance notes with a soft expression that it has been a long time since they were alone together. A soft, rhythmic tock-tock sounds as they walk together across the rain-slicked pavement of the city. Gwen brags about her umbrella, but Lance insists on stopping at a store to find better protection. A steady, pouring fsha of rain fills the air as they navigate the busy streets under a pink umbrella. Lance looks serious and focused, his protective presence shielding Gwen as they walk through the crowded neighborhood. The city lights blur into the background as the rain continues with a constant, soothing fsha sound. Gwen walks in quiet contemplation, her expression somber as she reflects on the changes in her life. Their footsteps remain synchronized on the wet stones, drawing them closer to the end of their walk together. Lance remains silent but attentive, his gaze fixed ahead as he ensures Gwen reaches her home safely. The scene shifts to the purple-haired Arthur, who looks warm and slightly flushed in the evening light. Lance and Gwen continue their walk, the red-haired man holding the umbrella over her with a determined look. Lance becomes flustered, awkwardly reminding Gwen that his role is primarily to provide her with legal aid. An awkward ahem clears the air while Gwen looks up at him with a tender and appreciative gaze. Gwen offers a gentle smile, expressing her firm belief that this legal path is truly best for Leon. Lance watches her with a mixture of sadness and deep affection, his eyes reflecting his unspoken feelings. He offers a fierce, protective warning, promising to make anyone regret it if they ever make her cry. Gwen stops and looks back at him in shock, moved by the sudden intensity of his vow. Standing amidst the rainy cityscape, Lance reaffirms his loyalty to her before they part ways for the night. He asks Gwen to contact him once the written agreement is settled, offering a small, supportive smile. Gwen stands alone for a moment, looking quite moved as she watches him depart into the rain. Lance runs off into the distance, leaving Gwen to reflect on their conversation in the quiet evening. Gwen arrives in a dry area near her home, noting the strange localized weather as she walks. She takes a rare moment to admire the beautiful neighborhood garden, reflecting on her busy life with Arthur. Neighbors gossip nearby, inviting Arthur to join their activities and suggesting he bring his wife along next time. Gwen is caught in a state of shock as Arthur playfully agrees to the neighbor's suggestion with a chuckle. Arthur offers Gwen a charming, radiant look, clearly enjoying her flustered reaction to the neighbor's misunderstanding. He suddenly shouts her name, startling her as the neighbors watch their interaction with great amusement. Arthur sweeps Gwen into a tight embrace, loudly calling her his darling in front of the watching crowd. The neighbors giggle and leave the lovebirds alone, ignoring Gwen's frantic and embarrassed attempts to correct them. Gwen notices that Arthur's face is slightly flushed as he continues to tease her with a soft giggle. They walk through the garden together, hand in hand, the atmosphere between them shifting toward a comfortable, domestic ease. Gwen asks about his canceled meeting, and Arthur explains that a flight delay provided him this unexpected free time. The sun sets over the peaceful courtyard, casting a warm, golden glow over the tranquil landscape around them. Their steps echo on the pavement as the conversation shifts back to the importance of their upcoming legal agreement. A sharp beep sounds as Gwen stares at her phone with a troubled expression, worrying about her complicated family. In a high-rise office overlooking the city, a brown-haired woman sits at her desk and lets out a heavy sigh. The brown-haired woman leans her head on her hands, fretting over how a family scandal might affect their business investors. A hazy flashback shows construction workers on a site where the woman and her late brother founded their housing business. The brown-haired woman recalls Arthur's past misbehavior and the many times she had to intervene to protect the company's reputation. Memories of Arthur's antics flash by before the woman looks at a photograph of him with Gwen and baby Leon. In another flashback, a man in a patterned shirt follows the red-haired Camilla, questioning if her current scheme is excessive. Camilla offers a cold, confident smirk, dismissing his concerns and insisting that her plan is just getting started. The man suggests that talking to Gwen directly for the money they need would be a far more reasonable approach. Camilla's temper flares as she turns back, fiercely shouting that she does not consider Gwen to be her sister. As Camilla hides her face in frustration, bitter rumors about her family's past surface over a dark silhouette of children. A sudden wah-ha of cruel laughter erupts as children's silhouettes run past glowing windows, echoing insults about Gwen's mother. Letting out a sharp huff, Camilla seethes with resentment toward Gwen and their father for the shame she carries. A clear photo captures a happy moment between the purple-haired Arthur, the pink-haired Gwen, and their infant son, Leon. Camilla's face twists with intense jealousy and rage as she contrasts her own misery with Gwen's bright, happy smile.
The scene shifts to a serene park where lush green leaves frame people enjoying a quiet walk through the neighborhood.
Gwen walks through the area carrying heavy grocery bags, offering a soft smile as she apologizes for the long wait.
Nana and Gwen discuss dinner plans while pushing Leon in his stroller, enjoying a peaceful domestic afternoon together in the city.
Arthur stands in the park wearing a designer shirt, calling out to Gwen and Nana as they approach him.
Arthur explains that Carol is finishing work early, while Gwen reflects on his surprising suggestion to meet at the apartment.
Arthur reaches out with a gentle hand to pat Leon's head, greeting the happy baby with a soft, affectionate tone. The group gathers under the shade of the park trees, chatting comfortably as they prepare to head back to the apartment. Seen from above, the trio walks down the paved street, with Arthur and Gwen carrying the green grocery bags. Arthur casually asks if he should cut his hair, but Gwen quickly shouts an emphatic refusal to the idea. Gwen becomes flustered, awkwardly explaining that his hair is too pretty to cut, while Arthur considers her reaction with curiosity. Arthur places a protective hand on Gwen's shoulder as they walk together, the sunlight filtering through the trees above them.
Gwen looks ahead with a soft, thoughtful expression, her face warmed by the dappled light and Arthur's close presence.
Arthur offers Gwen a tender and charming look, his eyes full of warmth as they continue their walk home. Walking side by side from behind, Arthur keeps a steady hand on Gwen's shoulder, guiding her through the quiet, leafy neighborhood. Back inside the apartment, a joyful wah-ha-ha fills the room as Arthur plays with Leon, holding the baby's tiny hands. Gwen and Nana watch the two of them with gentle smiles, touched by the sight of Arthur's fatherly affection. Gwen reflects on her past, admitting she once believed a happy family moment like this was completely impossible for her. Her eyes look somber as she remembers the difficult times she endured before Arthur re-entered her and Leon's life. A sudden ding-dong chimes through the apartment, alerting the group that their expected guests have finally arrived. The intercom screen shows Carol and the bodyguard, Gareth, who announce their safe arrival to the apartment. Arthur looks up with a brilliant, sparkling smile, ready to welcome Gwen's best friend into their home.
Chibi, Carol, and Gwen are frozen in shock as Carol notes the incredible resemblance between Arthur and a grown-up Leon.
Arthur apologizes for the commotion and invites them to sit, while Gareth says his goodbyes and departs the room. Carol stares at Gwen with an intense look of disbelief, struggling to process the presence of the man beside her. Carol is taken aback by Gwen's directness, realizing her friend is no longer hiding the truth about her situation. Arthur maintains a calm and pleasant expression, patiently waiting for Carol to settle in and begin their conversation. Gwen looks startled and wide-eyed, reacting to something Arthur just said while the atmosphere in the room remains tense. Standing together in the living room, Gwen and Arthur face a stunned Carol as the reality of their family settles in.